He's going to kill you in 3 seconds. Grace's whisper cut through the low jazz, through the clink of crystal, through Vincent Callahan's carefully constructed world. Her hand, still holding his credit card, trembled so badly the receipt fluttered like a dying bird. Vincent's eyes locked on hers. Not the polite businessman eyes. Something else. Something that saw through her white shirt and racing heart straight into the truth. Who? Grace's lips moved. No sound. Just one word behind. The gunshot answered for her. Vincent's wine glass exploded. Grace screamed. And the Velvet Heart, Seattle's most exclusive restaurant where millionaires paid $300 for steak, became a slaughterhouse. What happens next, nobody saw coming. 3 seconds earlier, Grace had been fine. Fine was a lie she told herself every shift, standing in heels that murdered her arches. She smiled at men who looked through her like glass. She pretended the tips she hustled for weren't the only thing between her and eviction. But Fine worked. Fine paid rent. Fine got her through nursing school 1 credit at a time. Fine died when she saw the gun. She had been approaching table 12. Vincent Callahan's table. The one her manager always gave her because he liked her. Keep him happy, Grace. She was carrying his receipt and wearing her best customer service smile. The smile that said, I am harmless, I am invisible, I am just the help. That is when she noticed the man at table 9. Black suit, expensive watch, hands too still, eyes too focused. Inside his jacket was just a flash when he reached for his water glass, the unmistakable shape of a weapon. Grace had grown up in Portland. Her brother was a cop. She knew what guns looked like. She knew what men look like when they were about to use them. And this man was looking at Vincent Callahan like he was already dead. Her brain short-circuited. Every smart instinct screamed that it was not her problem. Walk away. Finish your shift. Go home, let rich people handle rich people problems. Instead, Grace picked up the pen from her apron. Her hands shook so hard she could barely write. The letters came out jagged and desperate. Gunman behind you, exit now. She slid the receipt across the white tablecloth. Her fingers sweat marks on the paper. She looked Vincent dead in the eyes and whispered words that would destroy her entire life. He's going to kill you in 3 seconds. Vincent didn't question. He didn't hesitate. He didn't do any of the normal human things that might have saved them both. He moved like violence was a language he spoke fluently. The table flipped. Crystal shattered. The man Vincent had been dining with was pale and sweating. Obviously terrified, he opened his mouth to scream. The bullet hit him instead. Grace heard the wet thud of impact. She saw the man's eyes go wide with shock before they went empty. She saw blood. So much blood spreading across his white shirt in a bloom that looked almost artistic in the low lighting. Then Vincent's hand closed around her wrist like an iron shackle. Down, Grace dropped. Her knees hit marble. Her palms slid in something slick and warm. Wine, she told herself. Just wine. Definitely wine. And her mind finally caught up with her body and started screaming. This was real. This was happening. She just watched a man die 3 feet from where she stood. Kitchen, Vincent barked. Move now. Why the kitchen? Why not the front door where normal people were running, where sirens would be coming, where safety existed? Grace didn't ask. She ran behind him, more gunshots screaming, the crash of tables being overturned. The sound of her manager's voice high and panicked, shouting about police and lawsuits and insurance. Grace hit the kitchen door so hard they slammed into the wall. The line cooks froze. Knives raised, confusion and fear painted across their faces. What the hell? Go. Vincent burst through behind her. Gun in his hand now. Actual gun. Where had that come from? Everyone out. Police are coming. Go. The cooks scattered like roaches when the lights came on. Grace stood there trembling, her brain refusing to process any of this. Vincent grabbed her arm again. Gentler this time, but just as unbreakable. Grace, look at me. She looked. His eyes were dark, intense, completely calm. Despite the chaos and blood and death they just run from. I need you to trust me for the next 60 seconds. Can you do that? I don't know you. You know me well enough to save my life. His voice dropped lower, urgent. They saw you warn me. They saw me react. Which means you're a target now too. So I am asking again. 60 seconds of trust. Yes or no? Grace's nursing training kicked in. The part that dealt with trauma, with crisis, with making decisions when your brain was drowning in cortisol and fear, she assessed. Vincent wasn't hurt. He wasn't panicking. He was clearly trained for this exact situation, which meant he had been expecting it. Yes, she whispered. Good girl, back door, stay behind me. They ran through the kitchen, past ovens still radiating heat, past prep stations covered in half-made dishes. They ran past the walk-in freezer where Grace had taken her breaks and wondered if her life would ever amount to more than this. Careful what you wish for. The back door led to an alley. Rain hammered down. Seattle in November. Always raining. Always cold. Grace's white shirt became transparent in seconds. Her shoes slipped on wet pavement. Vincent pulled her left away from the street into the maze of alleys behind First Avenue's restaurants and bars. Your car, he demanded. Still moving. Still scanning every shadow like threats lived in all of them. I take the bus, right? He cursed creative fluid multiple languages. Of course you do. What is that supposed to mean? It means you're exactly who I thought you were. He pulled her around a corner, pressed them both against a wet brick wall. Decent, normal, someone who takes public transportation and probably recycles and helps old ladies cross the street. You say that like it's a bad thing. In my world, Vincent looked at her and something in his expression made Grace's stomach drop. It's a death sentence. Before she could process that, headlights swept across the alley mouth behind them. Vincent's entire body went rigid. His hand still holding that gun came up in one smooth motion. Grace stopped breathing. The car passed. It didn't slow. It didn't stop. Vincent didn't lower the gun for another 10 seconds. Who are you? Grace whispered. Really, you already know. He started moving again, pulling her deeper into the labyrinth of Seattle's underbelly. Vincent Callahan, import-export, logistics and shipping. Very boring businessman who pays his taxes and donates to charity. Boring businessmen don't carry guns in restaurants. Smart and observant. No wonder you noticed the hitman. He stopped at a junction, 3 alleys branching in different directions. He chose the middle one without hesitation. You want the truth, Grace. The real truth. I think I've earned it. Vincent laughed, sharp, bitter, nothing like the polite sounds he had made when she served him coffee and asked how his steak was cooked. Yeah, you have. He stopped, turned to face her fully. Rain ran down his face, plastered his dark hair to his forehead. He looked younger than she thought. Mid-30s maybe. Too young to have the kind of calm that came from being shot at. I run the Callahan Syndicate, he said. Organized crime. Irish mob, if you want to get technical about it. Though we're pretty diversified these days. Drugs, gambling, construction, unions, city contracts. The stuff that keeps Seattle running under the surface where polite people don't look. Grace's knees went weak. You're Mafia. I prefer crime lord, but yes, essentially. He watched her face. You going to run now, can I? No, his voice was gentle, terrifyingly gentle, because they saw you. The shooter, whoever sent him, whoever is watching the security footage right now, they all saw you warn me, which makes you a witness, a loose end. Someone who knows I'm alive when I should be dead. I'm nobody. I just serve food. You stopped being nobody at exactly 10:47 p.m. when you wrote 3 words that saved my life. Vincent's jaw tightened. I'm sorry, Grace. I am so sorry. But you're in this now, and the only way out is through. Thunder rumbled overhead. Grace's entire body shook. From cold, from fear, from the absolute insanity of everything that had happened in the last 10 minutes. What happens now? She asked. Vincent's phone buzzed. He pulled it out, looked at the screen, and his expression went from controlled to murderous. Now we find out who wants me dead badly enough to shoot up a public restaurant. He showed her the phone. And who just sent 12 armed men to your apartment. Grace stared at the security feed on his screen. Her apartment door splintered open. Her living room ransacked. Her roommates huddled in the corner, while men in tactical gear tore through everything she owned. Oh my God, Sarah and Mia are alive. They're scared but alive. The men have orders not to hurt civilians. Vincent's voice was ice. They're just making a point. What point? That nowhere is safe, that I can't protect you. That I should give you up or watch you die. He put the phone away. They're wrong. How can you know that? Because I don't give up people who saved my life. Vincent started walking again faster now, and because whoever sent those men just made their first mistake. What mistake? They assumed I'd be scared. His smile was all teeth and fury. I'm not scared, Grace. I'm pissed. 20 minutes later, they were in a car Grace didn't recognize, driving through Seattle's rain-slick streets toward a destination Vincent wouldn't name. The car, a black Mercedes that had been waiting exactly where Vincent said it would be, smelled like leather and expensive cologne. Grace sat in the passenger seat, still shaking, still processing, still unable to believe any of this was real. Vincent drove with one hand. The other rested on his phone, which kept buzzing with messages he glanced at but didn't answer. Who is texting you? Grace asked. People who want to know if I'm dead yet. He took a turn too fast. Grace grabbed the door handle. You're going to be disappointed. Active list or lifetime total. That's not funny. Wasn't joking, he glanced at her. You okay? Am I okay? Grace's voice cracked. I just watched a man get killed. My apartment was raided. I'm in a car with a crime lord going to God knows where to do God knows what. So, no, Vincent, I'm not okay. I'm the opposite of okay. I'm so far from okay that I can't even see okay anymore. Vincent was quiet for a moment. Then you're in shock. That's normal. It will pass. Oh, it will pass. Great, thanks for that professional medical opinion from the man who runs the Irish mob. We prefer syndicate. I don't care what you prefer. Grace shocked herself with the yell. Vincent didn't even flinch. Good, he said calmly. Get angry. Anger is better than fear. Anger wanna be sharp. I wanna be home. I wanna be normal. Normal is gone, Grace. His voice was maddeningly gentle. The second you wrote that note, normal disappeared. I can't give it back to you. Nobody can. Tears burned Grace's eyes. She refused to let them fall. She refused to break down in front of this man who probably ate fear for breakfast and thought murder was just another Tuesday. My parents, she whispered. Are they safe? Vincent's expression softened. I have 2 men watching their house in Portland. Best guys I've got. Your parents don't know they're there, but they're safe. I promise you that. Why would you do that? Because you saved my life. He said it like it explained everything. Maybe it did, because in my world, debts get paid always. Grace looked at him. Really looked. She saw past the expensive suit and the gun and the cold efficiency. She saw someone who looked tired. Who looked like he had been carrying weight for so long he had forgotten what it felt like to stand up straight. How old were you, she asked, when you took over? Vincent's hands tightened on the steering wheel. 23, that's young. That's desperate. He took another turn. They were heading north toward the wealthy neighborhoods where tech millionaires and old money lived in houses that cost more than most people made in a lifetime. My parents died. Car accident. Very convenient timing for some people. Convenient. My uncle Elias ran things while I was in college. Georgetown, constitutional law. I was going to be a lawyer, save the world. Do something clean and legal and good. His laugh was bitter. Then my parents died and Uncle Elias told me the family needed me. Told me it was my duty, my legacy. And you believed him. I was 23 and my parents were dead. Vincent's voice was flat. Yeah, I believed him. Grace wanted to ask more. Wanted to understand how someone who had wanted to be a lawyer ended up running organized crime. But Vincent's phone rang before she could. He answered on speaker. Talk. A man's voice, rough, older, with an accent Grace couldn't place. Boss, we've got a problem. Bigger than the 12 guys ransacking my waitress's apartment. Yeah, Elias just landed at SeaTac. Vincent's entire expression changed. When? 20 minutes ago, private jet from Phoenix. He's got 8 men with him, all former military, all carrying. Where is he now? Heading to the Velvet Heart. Told the police he's there to identify his nephew's body. Grace's stomach dropped. Your uncle thinks you're dead. He hopes I'm dead. Vincent's voice was ice. Big difference. He hung up, stared at the road ahead. Grace watched emotions flicker across his face. Anger, pain, and something that looked almost like grief. Your uncle sent the hitman, she said quietly. Maybe. I don't know yet. Vincent's jaw clenched. But he's about to find out I'm alive, which means we're out of time. Out of time for what? For keeping you safe from a distance. He pulled the car into an underground garage, pristine, expensive, the kind of place where each parking spot probably costs more than Grace's yearly tuition. We're going to my safe house. You're going to stay there while I deal with Elias. Deal with him, how? Vincent looked at her, and for the first time since the restaurant, Grace saw something in his eyes that genuinely terrified her. Not anger, not violence, something colder. Certainty. However I have to, he said. The safe house was a penthouse that belonged in magazines. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Elliott Bay, furniture that looked like sculpture, art on the walls that Grace recognized from her art history class. Originals, not prints. Vincent locked the door behind them, 3 locks each requiring a different key, and immediately went to a hidden panel in the wall. It opened to reveal screens showing security feeds from 12 different angles. Make yourself comfortable, he said, studying the screens. There is food in the kitchen. Clothes in the bedroom. Should be some things that fit you. Bathroom stocked. Everything you need. Grace stood in the middle of the pristine living room, dripping rainwater on floors that probably cost more per square foot than her entire apartment, and felt herself start to fracture. I don't want to be comfortable, she said. Her voice sounded strange, distant. I want to understand what's happening. Vincent turned from the screens, really looked at her, saw past the shock and fear to something else. She was about to break. Sit down, he said gently. I don't want Grace. Sit. She sat on a leather couch that was softer than her bed at home. Vincent disappeared into the kitchen. Returned with 2 glasses and a bottle of whiskey that probably cost more than her monthly rent. He poured, handed her a glass, sat across from her. Drink. Grace drank. The whiskey burned. She drank more. Better now. Her hands stopped shaking. Tell me everything. No more half-truths. No more protecting me from information. I'm already in this. I deserve to know why. Vincent studied her for a long moment. Then he made a decision. 5 years ago, I took control of the Calasan syndicate from my uncle Elias. It wasn't peaceful. It wasn't friendly. People died, he drank his own whiskey. Elias retired to Arizona, took his money, his pension, his legacy, told everyone he was done with the life, going legit, but he wasn't. Nobody is ever really done. Vincent's smile was grim. Elias spent 5 years building alliances, calling in favors, reminding people that he ran Seattle's underworld for 15 years while I was busy getting my law degree and pretending to be normal. And now he wants it back. Now he thinks I'm weak, too soft, too American, not ruthless enough to run a real criminal organization. Vincent poured more whiskey. He's been waiting for an excuse. Tonight's attack gave him one. The hitman failed. The hitman was supposed to fail. Vincent's eyes met hers. This wasn't about killing me, Grace. This was about proving I'm vulnerable, that I can be touched, that anyone who wants to challenge me should make their move now while I'm weak. Understanding crashed over Grace like a wave. And I ruined that plan. You ruined it beautifully. Vincent raised his glass in a toast. You gave me a chance to survive when I was supposed to die on camera in public in a way that would shatter my organization's faith in me. So what happens now? Now Elias has to adapt. He thought he'd be identifying my body and consolidating power tonight. Instead, I'm alive. You're with me. And he's scrambling to figure out what went wrong. Vincent's smile was sharp, and while he's scrambling, I'm going to find out who else is involved in this coup. How? By making him think I'm weaker than I am. Vincent stood, by letting him believe that protecting you, a random waitress, is making me sloppy, emotional, compromised. Grace stood too. And then I use his overconfidence to destroy him. The words were so cold, so certain that Grace's breath caught. You're going to kill your own uncle. Vincent's expression didn't change. If he tries to kill me first, yes, absolutely, without hesitation. That is survival in my world. He moved to the window, looked out at Seattle's glittering skyline. You want to judge me for it? Go ahead. You've earned that right tonight. But understand something, Grace. Elias sent men to your apartment, put you in danger. Made you a target, not because you did anything wrong, but because you happened to save my life. I know. No, you don't know. Vincent turned back to her. You don't know what he will do to you if he gets the chance. You don't know the things he's done to people who got in his way. You don't know. He stopped, took a breath. My parents' car accident. The one that killed them and put Elias in charge. Wasn't an accident. Grace's blood went cold. He killed your parents. I can't prove it, but yeah, I know he did. Vincent's voice was barely above a whisper, and I've spent 5 years building a case, building evidence, building enough power to make sure he can never hurt anyone I care about again. But you can prove the attack tonight. Maybe if I can find the hitman. If I can get him to talk. If Elias left a trail that leads back to him. Vincent ran his hand through his still damp hair. That's the problem with family betrayals. They're always deniable. Always have plausible excuses. Grace walked to the window, stood next to Vincent, looking out at the same view. The city spread below them like a jeweled carpet. Millions of people living normal lives, going to work, coming home. Never knowing that above them in a penthouse safe house, a crime lord and a waitress were planning how to survive a war. I should be terrified, Grace said quietly. You should be, I am, but I'm also, she searched for the word. Angry. Vincent looked at her. Yeah, your uncle Elias. He destroyed my apartment, scared my roommates, put my parents in danger. All because I did the right thing. Grace's hands clenched into fists. I hate him. I've never even met him, but I hate him. Vincent's voice was approving. Hold on to that. Anger is useful. How? Because fear makes you freeze. Anger makes you fight. He touched her shoulder. Brief. Careful. And I think you're a fighter, Grace Mitchell. I think that's why you warned me instead of running. That's why you're still standing here instead of breaking down. You've got steel in you. Grace laughed. Sharp and slightly hysterical. Steel. I'm a waitress. I serve food. The most dangerous thing I've done before tonight was tell a customer his steak was overcooked. You grew up in Portland. Brother is a cop. You take the bus because you're saving money for school. You work double shifts and still pull straight as in your nursing classes. Vincent's voice was matter of fact. You think I didn't investigate you thoroughly. You're not just a waitress, Grace. You're someone who's been fighting her whole life to become something more. How do you know about my grades? I told you I investigate everyone. He moved away from the window. The first time I came to the Velvet Heart, I saw you handle a drunk customer who was getting aggressive. You didn't call for help, didn't back down, just looked him in the eye and told him exactly how it was going to go. Grace remembered some tech bro who had had too much wine and too much testosterone. She had given him one warning, then had security remove him. No drama, no scene. That made you investigate me. That made me curious about you. Vincent's smile was real this time, small but genuine, and then I found out you were exactly what you appeared to be. Good person, hard worker, someone trying to build a better life. And I thought he trailed off. What? I thought people like you shouldn't have to serve people like me. The honesty in his voice made Grace's throat tight. This was the man who had wanted to be a lawyer, who had studied constitutional law, who had his future stolen by his uncle's ambition and his parents' murder. Vincent, she said softly, what would you do if you could have any life you wanted? If you weren't a crime lord? He thought about it, really thought about it. When he answered, his voice was wistful. I'd practice law, public defense probably. Help people who can't afford good representation. Make the system work for everyone, not just the rich. He laughed quietly. Instead, I'm the reason the system doesn't work. Ironic, right? It's not too late. Yes, it is. Vincent's expression hardened again. I've done things, Grace. Things that can't be undone. Things that put me exactly where I belong. Running an empire built on violence and fear. You protected me tonight. That doesn't make me good. Maybe not. Grace moved closer. But it makes you better than the man who sent hitmen to murder you in a restaurant full of innocent people. Vincent looked at her, and for just a moment, Grace saw past all his defenses, saw the man he had wanted to be, the man he might have been if his parents hadn't died, and his uncle hadn't betrayed him, and the world hadn't forced him into a role he never chose. Grace. His phone rang. Vincent answered immediately. Talk. The same rough voice from before. Boss, we've got movement. Elias left the Velvet Heart. He's heading toward First Hill. Vincent's expression went cold. We're on First Hill. St. James Cathedral. Every drop of blood drained from Grace's face. He knows about Father Michael. No. Vincent was already moving, grabbing his gun, heading for the door. He can't know. Nobody knows about Michael except. He stopped, went completely still. What? Marco, my associate, the one who was shot at the restaurant. Vincent's voice was deadly quiet. He knew about Michael. He's the one who introduced us. So Marco is not dead. Grace's stomach dropped. The bullet I saw had hit him. Vest. Had to be a vest. Vincent was pulling up security feeds on his phone. Marco sold me out. Told Elias about my connection to Michael. Probably told him about this safe house too. Then we need to leave. No, we need to get to Michael before Elias does. Vincent grabbed Grace's hand. Because if Elias gets to a priest who knows where I hide people, who I trust, who I confess my sins to, he'll know everything. He'll know enough. Vincent pulled her toward the door. Come on. We've got maybe 10 minutes before Elias realizes Michael is the key to finding you. They ran. St. James Cathedral looked different when you were racing death to get there. Vincent drove like the laws of physics were suggestions. The Mercedes screamed through red lights, took corners that made Grace's stomach flip, and somehow didn't crash into the dozen cars that honked and swerved around them. Call Michael. Vincent barked, tossing his phone to Grace, numbers under sheep. Grace's hands shook as she scrolled. Found it, dialed it, rang and rang and rang. He's not answering. Try again. She tried again. Same result. Vincent's jaw clenched so hard Grace heard his teeth grind. How far, she asked. 3 minutes, maybe 2, if these idiots would move. He laid on the horn, swerving around a taxi. Come on, come on. Grace had never heard him sound scared before. Not at the restaurant when bullets were flying. Not in the alley when they were being hunted. But now, racing to save a priest who had shown them mercy, Vincent sounded terrified. He's your friend, Grace said quietly. He's the only person in Seattle who knows me and doesn't want something from me. Vincent's voice cracked slightly. He knew my parents. Baptized me. Was there when they died. When everyone else saw an opportunity, Michael just saw a kid who needed help. Then we'll get there in time. You don't know that. No. Grace gripped the phone, but I'm choosing to believe it anyway. Vincent looked at her, just a glance, barely a second, but something in his expression shifted, softened. You're either very brave or very stupid. Can I be both? Despite everything, he almost smiled. They skidded to a stop in front of the cathedral. 90 seconds later, Vincent was out of the car before Grace even unbuckled. Gun drawn, moving toward the side entrance with that predator grace that made him seem like a different species from normal humans. Grace ran after him. Her shoes, still the cheap work heels from her shift, slipped on wet stone. She caught herself, kept moving. The side door was open. Vincent stopped, held up one hand. Military signal for halt. Grace froze by yours. That door is always locked, he whispered, always. Maybe Michael. Michael doesn't forget locks. Vincent's eyes scanned the shadows. Someone's already here. Grace's heart hammered against her ribs. Elias or whoever he sent. Vincent looked back at her. Stay behind me. Don't make a sound. And if I tell you to run, you run. Understand? I'm not leaving you, Grace. If this goes bad, you run. You call the number I gave you. You disappear. Promise me. She wanted to argue. Wanted to tell him she wasn't some helpless damsel who needed protecting. But the look in his eyes stopped her. This wasn't about her being weak. This was about him needing to know she'd survive if he didn't. I promise, she lied. They went inside. The cathedral was dark except for the eternal flame near the altar. Their footsteps echoed on marble. Too loud, too obvious. Vincent moved like a ghost anyway, checking corners, scanning shadows, the gun an extension of his hand. Grace followed, her breath shallow, her entire body vibrating with adrenaline. They made it to the confessional where they had met Father Michael hours ago, empty. Vincent's face went pale. The rectory. They moved faster now. Through a door Grace hadn't noticed before, down a hallway that smelled like incense and old wood. At the end, a door closed but not locked. Vincent pushed it open. Father Michael was sitting at his desk reading a book, completely unharmed. Grace nearly collapsed with relief. Michael. Vincent lowered his gun. Thank God. The priest looked up, smiled. Vince, I wasn't expecting you back so soon. Then he saw Grace, saw the fear on both their faces. What's wrong? Elias knows about you. Vincent moved into the room, checking the windows, the corners, everywhere someone could hide. Marco sold me out, told him about our connection. Michael's face went serious when, now, he's on his way here, maybe already. Glass shattered. Vincent spun, raising his gun, but he was too slow. The window exploded inward and something small and metal bounced across the floor. Grenade. Vincent grabbed Grace, threw her behind the desk, covered her body with his. The explosion wasn't as loud as Grace expected, more like a loud pop. But the smoke, thick, acid choking, filled the room in seconds. Gas. Michael's voice somewhere in the smoke. They're using gas. Grace couldn't breathe. Her eyes burned. Her lungs screamed. She felt Vincent's weight shift. Felt him try to move. Heard him coughing. Then hands grabbed her. Not Vincent's hands. Wrong hands. Rough, unfamiliar, dragging her away from safety. No, she kicked, clawed, tried to scream through the smoke. Grace. Vincent's voice. Raw and desperate. Gunshots. Someone cursed. Grace was lifted, thrown over a shoulder. She caught a glimpse of the room through the smoke. Vincent on his knees, coughing, trying to raise his gun. Michael collapsed against the wall. Men in tactical gear everywhere. Then she was outside in the rain, being carried toward a van with tinted windows. She bit down on her captor's shoulder as hard as she could. He dropped her. Grace hit the pavement, rolled, tried to run. A hand caught her ankle, pulled. She went down again, her palm scraping concrete. Feisty little thing. The voice was cultured, amused. Wrong, no wonder Vince likes you. Grace looked up into the face of a man who could have been Vincent's father. Same dark eyes, same sharp features. But older, harder, with cruelty carved into every line. Elias Callahan smiled down at her. Hello, Grace, I've been so looking forward to meeting you. Grace spat blood at him. Elias laughed, genuine, delighted. Oh, this is going to be fun. He nodded to his men. They hauled Grace to her feet, zip-tied her wrists behind her back. She fought every second, but there were 4 of them, and 1 of her. Her nursing school self-defense class hadn't covered what to do when kidnapped by the Irish mob. Vincent will kill you, she snarled. Vincent can't even save himself right now. Elias gestured toward the cathedral. Smoke was still pouring from the broken window. Tear gas is a wonderful invention. Non-lethal, but completely incapacitating. By the time my dear nephew can breathe again, we'll be long gone. Why are you doing this? Why? Elias studied her like she was a curious specimen. Because Vincent forgot the first rule of our business. Never show weakness. Never care about anyone enough to make them a target. He touched her face. Grace jerked away. And you, my dear, are his weakness. The moment he chose to protect a waitress over protecting himself, he proved he's not fit to lead. He's a better man than you will ever be. Better. Elias's smile disappeared. Better doesn't survive in our world, Grace. Better doesn't build empires. Better doesn't make the hard choices that keep organizations running. Better doesn't murder his own brother either. The slap came so fast Grace didn't see it. Her head snapped to the side, pain exploding across her cheek. She tasted blood. Elias leaned close. Careful, little waitress. You don't know enough to make accusations. I know you killed Vincent's parents. I know you stole what should have been his. I know you're a coward who can't beat your nephew in a fair fight. So you hide behind hired guns and tear gas and kidnapping women who can't fight back. For a second, just a second, Elias looked like he might hit her again. Then he laughed instead. Oh, Vincent picked well. You've got spine. He stepped back, nodded to his men. Put her in the van gently. She is valuable merchandise. They dragged Grace toward the vehicle. She dug in her heels, tried to plant her feet. But they were bigger and stronger, and she was already exhausted from running in fear, and the smoke still burning in her lungs. Vincent, she screamed. Vincent, help. No answer. Just smoke and silence and the rain beating down. They threw her into the van, slammed the doors. Grace heard the engine start, felt the vehicle begin to move. She was alone, tied up, being taken God knew where by a man who had murdered his own family, and Vincent. Vincent was still in that cathedral, choking on gas. Maybe hurt, definitely too late. Grace closed her eyes and tried not to cry. She failed. The van drove for 20 minutes. Grace counted turns, tried to memorize the route, did everything her brother had once told her to do if she was ever kidnapped. Like this was a scenario anyone actually prepared for. Like knowing she had taken 4 left turns, and 2 rights would somehow save her. When they finally stopped, strong hands pulled her out. Grace stumbled, nearly fell. Someone caught her. Not gently, just efficiently. They were in a warehouse, massive, empty, except for some old shipping containers and a lot of shadows. The kind of place where people disappeared and nobody asked questions. Elias was already there, leaning against a table looking relaxed, like kidnapping was just another Tuesday for him. Sit her down, he said. They pushed Grace into a metal chair, zip-tied her ankles to the legs. She was trapped, immobilized, completely at his mercy. Elias pulled up another chair, sat across from her like they were having coffee. Let's talk about Vincent. Go to hell. Already there, sweetheart. Have been for 40 years. He smiled. But we're not here to discuss my immortal soul. We're here to discuss my nephew's very mortal body. I don't know anything about your business. I don't care about the business. I care about Vincent. Tell me, when did he start caring about you? Was it tonight or has he been watching you for a while? Grace said nothing, the strong silent type, admirable. Elias pulled out his phone. Let me show you something. He turned the screen toward her. Security footage from the Velvet Heart, Vincent at his table. Grace approaching with the receipt the moment she wrote the warning. See that? Elias pointed. Right there, the way he looks at you. That's not gratitude, Grace. That's recognition of what? Of someone who matters. Elias pocketed the phone. Vincent's been trying to go legitimate for 5 years. Cleaning up the organization, cutting ties with the profitable but messy operations, making nice with city officials. All very noble. All very stupid. Why stupid? Because you can't clean blood with water. You can only hide it. Elias's voice was matter of fact. Vincent thinks he can transform the Callahan Syndicate into something respectable. But he's forgotten what we are, what we've always been. What his own father built. His father that you killed. Elias didn't even flinch. His father who was going soft. Who wanted to retire, hand everything over to Vincent while he was still a kid in law school. Who would have destroyed 40 years of work because he got sentimental in his old age. So you murdered him. I saved the organization. Elias stood, paced, and I ran it properly for 15 years. Made it stronger, richer, more powerful than my brother ever managed. Then Vincent came back full of righteousness and law school ideals and convinced enough people that he deserved a chance. And you let him. I let him hang himself. Elias turned back to her. I gave him 5 years to prove he could lead. 5 years to show that his modern legitimate approach could work. And what did he accomplish? Profits down 30%, territory lost to rivals. Respect eroded because he's too soft to do what needs doing. He's not soft, he's smart, he's weak. Elias's voice hardened, and tonight proves it. A real leader would have let you die in that restaurant. Would have used your death as cover to escape. Instead, he risked everything to save a waitress he barely knows. Because he's decent. Because he's compromised. Elias slammed his hand on the table. Grace flinched, don't you see? You're not his salvation, Grace. You're his downfall. The evidence that he cares more about being good than being effective. Grace's mind raced. Then why am I here? If I'm just evidence, why not kill me and be done with it? Elias smiled and Grace realized she had asked exactly the wrong question. Because, he said softly, you're bait. Her blood turned to ice. Vincent will come for you. He won't be able to help himself. And when he does, when he walks into an obvious trap because he's too noble to let an innocent woman die, I'll kill him. Elias checked his watch. In fact, I'd estimate he'll be here in about an hour. Maybe less if he drives like a maniac, which he will. He's smarter than that. He's in love with you. What? No, we just met. Doesn't matter. Elias waved dismissively. Vincent doesn't fall easily, but when he does, he falls completely. I saw it in his eyes on that security footage. The way he looked at you. That's how his father looked at his mother. How I looked at my wife before this business killed her. It's the Callahan curse. We love too deeply. Too. Absolutely. And it destroys us. Grace felt sick. You're wrong. Or am I? Elias tilted his head. Then why did he investigate you after one customer interaction? Why did he remember your name, your schedule, your cat's name? Why did he risk his life pulling you out of that restaurant when he could have escaped alone? Because he saw something in her. Because she had saved him. Because Grace couldn't finish the thought. Elias laughed. You feel it too. Interesting. The waitress and the crime lord. Very Romeo and Juliet. We know how that ended. Vincent will kill you before you touch me. Vincent will try to kill me. He'll fail and then I'll kill him in front of you so you can see exactly what your heroism accomplished. Elias stood. Nothing personal, Grace. You seem like a nice girl. Wrong place, wrong time, wrong instinct to save a man who was already doomed. He walked toward the door. Stopped. Looked back. One piece of advice since you're going to die anyway. In our world, kindness is weakness, compassion is vulnerability, and love. He smiled coldly. Love is a bullet you give your enemies to shoot you with. Vincent forgot that. Now you both pay the price. Elias left. His men stayed. 2 of them, armed, watching her with the bored efficiency of professionals who had guarded plenty of hostages before. Grace tested the zip ties, too tight, tested the chair, bolted to the floor, tested her options. She had none unless, hey, she said to the nearest guard, I need to use the bathroom. He didn't even look at her. Seriously, I'm going to pee myself. You want to explain to your boss why his bait smells like urine. The guard sighed, looked at his partner. What do you think? Elias didn't say anything about bathroom breaks. He also didn't say we had to sit here smelling piss for an hour. They had a brief silent conversation through meaningful looks. Then the first guard approached Grace. You try anything at all, I put a bullet in your leg. Understand. Grace nodded. He cut the zip tie on her ankles, hauled her to her feet, kept one massive hand clamped on her arm while he led her toward a door-marked restroom. Grace's mind raced. This was her chance, maybe her only chance. The bathroom was exactly as disgusting as expected. One toilet. No windows, fluorescent light flickering overhead. The guard pushed her inside but stayed in the doorway. You got 2 minutes, I can't go with my hands tied, another sigh. You think I'm stupid. I think I can't unzip my pants with my hands behind my back, but if you want to do it for me, Jesus Christ. He cut the zip tie on her wrists. 2 minutes. Door stays open. Grace went to the toilet, sat. Her hands were free. Her mind was calculating. The guard was big, armed, trained. She was a nursing student whose combat experience consisted of 1 semester of kickboxing 3 years ago. She had surprise and desperation and the absolute certainty that if she stayed tied up in that chair, she was dead. Grace stood. I'm done. The guard turned slightly to grab new zip ties from his pocket. Grace grabbed the toilet tank lid. Heavy porcelain, perfect. She swung it with every ounce of strength she had. The porcelain connected with the guard's skull with a wet crunch. He dropped like a puppet with cut strings. Grace stared at his motionless body, at the blood pooling under his head at what she had just done. No time to think about it. She grabbed his gun, checked the hallway. The second guard was on his phone, not paying attention. Grace stepped out, aimed, fired. The recoil nearly knocked her over. The bullet went wide, hit a shipping container with a metallic clang. The guard spun, saw her, went for his weapon. Grace fired again and again and again. One shot hit his shoulder. He went down screaming. Grace ran out of the warehouse into the night. Rain hammering down on her head. She had no idea where she was. No phone, no plan, just a stolen gun and the absolute terror of what she had just done. She had hit a man with porcelain hard enough to crack his skull. She had shot another man. Grace vomited in an alley. Couldn't help it. Her hands shook so badly she nearly dropped the gun. Get it together. Move. Survive. She forced herself upright. Looked around. Industrial districts everywhere. No people, no traffic. Which way had they driven in? Grace tried to remember. 4 left turns, 2 rights. So reverse. 2 lefts, 4 rights. She started running. Elias's voice, sharp with fury, find her. I want her back here now. Footsteps. Multiple sets coming fast. Grace ran fast. Her heels broke. She kicked them off, kept running in bare feet. The pavement was freezing and wet and cut into her skin, but she didn't stop. Headlights, a street. Actual civilization. She was 20 feet away when a car screeched around the corner. Black Mercedes. Vincent's Mercedes. The car stopped. Vincent jumped out, gun raised, scanning for threats. His eyes locked on Grace. Vincent, she ran toward him. He He caught her, steadied her, his hands checking for injuries. Are you hurt, did they? I'm okay. I'm okay. But Elias, he's coming. They're right behind me. Get in the car. Vincent's voice was pure steel now. Grace climbed in. Vincent slid into the driver's seat, already accelerating before his door was fully closed. In the rearview mirror, Grace saw Elias emerge from the warehouse, saw his face contorted with rage, saw him screaming orders. Grace gasped. Michael. He put a tracker in your shoe at the cathedral. Old CIA habit. He used to be in intelligence before he found God. Vincent took a turn that made the tires scream. The second you were taken, I knew exactly where you were. The gas, I thought. I held my breath, faked being incapacitated until they left. His jaw clenched. I'm sorry, Grace, I should have moved faster. Should have protected you better. I escaped on my own. The words came out prouder than she expected. Hit one of them with a toilet lid. Shot the other one. Vincent's head snapped on my own. Grace's voice shook. I hit a man, Vincent. I think I really hurt him. There was so much blood. Good. His voice was fierce. Good, you survived. That's all that matters. But I hurt someone. Someone who kidnapped you, who would have killed you. Vincent reached over to squeeze her hand briefly. You did what you had to do. You're a survivor, Grace. I knew it the moment I met you. Grace looked down at her hands. They were still shaking, still covered in someone else's blood. She had crossed a line tonight, done things she never imagined herself capable of. And the worst part, she would do it again without hesitation if it meant staying alive. Where are we going? She asked quietly. Vincent's expression was grim. Somewhere Elias will never think to look. Where? My father's grave. The cemetery was in Bellevue, far enough from Seattle that Elias wouldn't think to look there. Vincent drove in silence, his hands tight on the wheel, his jaw working like he was chewing words he couldn't say out loud. Grace's feet were still bleeding. She had found napkins in the glove compartment, wrapped them around the worst cuts. But every time she moved her toes, the paper stuck to raw skin and she had to bite back a whimper. There is a first aid kit under your seat, Vincent said without looking at her. Grace found it, started cleaning the cuts properly. The sting of antiseptic was nothing compared to the sting of what she had done back at the warehouse. I've never hurt anyone before tonight, she said quietly. Vincent was quiet for a long moment. How does it feel? Horrible. Necessary. Both at the same time. Grace pressed gauze to her heel. Does it get easier? No. It gets familiar. That's worse. They pulled through cemetery gates just as dawn started breaking. Pink and gold light filtered through rain clouds, turning everything soft and surreal, like they had driven into a watercolor painting instead of a graveyard. Vincent parked near a section that looked older, more weathered. The headstones here were substantial granite and marble, the kind that cost money and spoke of legacy. He got out. Grace followed, limping slightly. Vincent walked to a grave near an old oak tree. Grace read the headstone, beloved husband and father, and below that, Mary Callahan. Together in eternal peace. Vincent just stood there staring at names carved in stone. I haven't been here in 3 years, he said. Kept meaning to visit, kept finding excuses not to. Grace stayed quiet. My mom loved this spot. Used to bring me here when I was a kid. Not to this grave, obviously, but to this cemetery. She'd walk around reading headstones, making up stories about the people buried here. Vincent's voice was soft. She said everyone deserves to be remembered, even if it's just by a stranger imagining their life. She sounds wonderful. She was kind. Smart. Way too good for my father. He knelt by the grave. Dad was complicated. He ran the organization, but he hated it, wanted out. Spent my entire childhood trying to figure out how to go legitimate without getting killed for it. Like you, like me. Vincent touched the headstone. He almost made it too. Had a plan. Had buyers for the dirty businesses. Had city officials ready to look the other way while we transitioned. Then his car went off a bridge and Elias took over and the plan died with him. Grace knelt beside Vincent. I'm sorry. Don't be sorry, be angry. He looked at her. Because Elias didn't just kill my parents. He killed every person who would have benefited from my father's plan. Every kid who wouldn't have gotten hooked on drugs. Every family that wouldn't have been extorted. Every life that could have been different if we'd gone clean. That's a lot of weight to carry. It's the weight I chose when I took back control. Vincent pulled something from his jacket, a key, small and tarnished. My father told me something before he died, said if anything ever happened to him, I should come here. Bring this key and trust what I found. What does it open? Vincent moved to the base of the headstone, ran his fingers along the granite until he found something Grace couldn't see. A tiny gap, a hidden seam. He inserted the key. The base of the headstone shifted, opened. Inside was a waterproof container. Grace's breath caught. Your father hid something in his own grave. My father was paranoid, brilliant but paranoid. Vincent pulled out the container, opened it. Inside were documents yellowed with age, but preserved perfectly. He said evidence. Proof of who could be trusted and who couldn't. Names, dates, transactions. He started reading. His face went pale. What? Grace demanded. What is it? Marco. Vincent's voice was barely audible. Marco's been working with Elias since the beginning. Since before my father died. The man from the restaurant. The man I trusted with my life. Vincent's hand shook. The man who introduced me to Father Michael, who helped me build my network, who I thought was loyal. He's been Elias's spy for 20 years. Grace felt sick. How long have you known him? Since I was 18. He was my father's right hand. I thought Vincent's voice cracked. I thought he was on my side. My father knew. He documented everything. Meetings between Marco and Elias, money transfers, plans to sabotage the transition to legitimate business. Vincent laughed bitterly. Dad knew he was going to be killed. Knew exactly who was going to do it, and he couldn't stop it. Because if he confronted them, they'd just move up the timeline. So he left you evidence. He left me a roadmap to trust no one. Vincent kept reading, his expression growing darker with each page. Jesus. Half my organization is working for Elias. People I promoted, people I trusted. All of them just waiting for the right moment to burn me. A car engine sounded in the distance. Vincent's head snapped up. We need to move. Who is it? Don't know. Don't care. We're exposed here. He shoved the documents back in the container, pocketed it. Come on. Vincent had his keys out, was reaching for the door when another car, black SUV, tinted windows, screeched to a stop, blocking their exit. Marco stepped out. His chest was wrapped in bandages visible under his shirt. The bulletproof vest had saved him just like Vincent predicted, but he was alive, smiling, pointing a gun directly at Vincent's head. Sorry, boss, Marco said. Nothing personal. Vincent moved in front of Grace. How long, Marco? How long have you been selling me out, since your daddy asked me to? Marco's smile widened. Tom Callahan was a weak man who wanted to destroy everything we built. I couldn't let that happen. So you killed him. Elias killed him. I just made sure the car's brakes failed at exactly the right moment. Marco shrugged. Your mother was collateral damage. Wrong place, wrong time, like our little waitress here. Grace felt Vincent's entire body go rigid. You murdered my mother and you're standing here admitting it like it's a joke. What are you going to do, Vince? Shoot me with the waitress standing behind you as a witness. Marco laughed. You're too soft for that. Always have been, that's why you'll lose. I'm soft. Vincent's voice was deadly quiet. I'm the one who spent 5 years building a case against you. Documenting every betrayal, every lie, every time you sold me out to Elias. Marco's smile faltered. You're bluffing, am I? Vincent pulled out his phone, held it up. On the screen, audio files. I've been recording our meetings for 3 years, Marco. Every single one. Waiting for you to slip. Waiting for you to admit what you really are. That won't hold up in court. I'm not going to court. Vincent's eyes were cold. I'm going to play this for every person in our organization. Let them hear you confess to killing the man they respected. Let them decide what happens to traitors. Marco's face went purple with rage. You little, he fired. Vincent moved faster than Grace thought possible. Grabbed her. Pulled her down behind the car. The bullet hit the Mercedes window, spider webbing the glass. Grace's ears rang. Vincent was on top of her, shielding her body with his, returning fire with his own weapon. Marco dove behind his SUV. Bullets pinged off metal, glass shattered. Grace's entire world became sound. Gunshots, ricochets, her own screaming. Stay down, Vincent barked. What are you going to do? End this. He reloaded with practiced efficiency. Grace, listen to me. When I move, you run straight to that maintenance shed by the gate. You hide there until this is over. Understand? I'm not leaving you. You are. Because if both of us die here, Elias wins. But if you survive, take these documents to the FBI. End this whole thing. He pressed the container into her hands. Promise me. Grace's throat closed up. Vincent, promise me. I promise. Vincent kissed her forehead. Quick, desperate. Then he was up and moving, firing as he ran toward Marco's position. Grace ran the other way toward the shed, toward safety. Behind her, more gunshots, shouting, the sound of bodies hitting the ground. She made it to the shed, yanked the door open, threw herself inside. The space was tiny, tools and dirt and the smell of fertilizer. She pressed her back against the wall, clutching the container, trying not to sob. Outside, the shooting stopped. Silence. Grace counted her heartbeats. 1, 2, 3, 10, 20, still no sound. She crept to the door, peeked out. Vincent was standing over Marco's body. His gun was still raised. Marco wasn't moving. Grace stumbled out of the shed. Vincent. He turned. Blood streaked his face, but she couldn't tell if it's over. Is he dead? Yes. Vincent lowered his gun, swayed slightly. Grace. He collapsed. Grace screamed, ran to him. He had been shot. The bullet had gone through his side, just above his hip. Blood soaked his shirt, pooled on the ground beneath him. No. Grace's nursing training kicked in. She pressed her hands to the wound, applied pressure. Stay with me, Vincent. Stay with me. His eyes fluttered open. Did you get the documents? You're bleeding out, Grace. He grabbed her wrist weakly. The documents, they're everything. Promise me you'll use them. I promise. Now shut up and let me save your life. She pulled off her jacket, wadded it against the wound. We need an ambulance. Where's your phone? Can't call 911. They'll have questions. You're dying, and I've been shot before. His smile was weak. Just need to stop the bleeding. Grace's hands were covered in his blood. So much blood. Too much blood. Tell me what to do, she whispered. Vincent's eyes were closing. Cart, medical kit, trunk. Grace ran to the Mercedes, popped the trunk. Inside was a kit that looked more like a field hospital. Bandages, sutures, antibiotics. Everything you would need to treat gunshot wounds without going to a hospital. She had never actually stitched a real person before. All her practice had been on mannequins and pigskin in her nursing classes. First time for everything, she muttered, grabbing the kit. Back at Vincent's side, she worked fast. Cleaned the wound, entry and exit. Thank God it went through, packed it with gauze, started suturing with hands that wouldn't stop shaking. Vincent groaned. You're doing great, shut up, don't talk. Grace focused on the stitches. Small, even, just like her instructor taught. This is insane. I'm stitching up a crime lord in a cemetery at dawn. This is not what I thought my life would be. Welcome to my world. Your world is terrible. No offense, none taken. He tried to laugh, gasped in pain, and said, Grace, thank you for everything. Thank me when you are not bleeding. She finished the stitches, wrapped the wound tightly. You need a hospital. Real doctors, antibiotics, blood transfusion, make some calls. People who owe me favors. Vincent tried to sit up, failed. Help me to the car. Grace got under his arm, supported most of his weight. He was heavy and fading mass, but between the two of them, they made it to the Mercedes. She dumped him in the passenger seat. I'm driving. You know how to drive stick. I'm about to learn real fast. Grace got behind the wheel. The car was nothing like her mom's old Civic. Everything was in the wrong place. The engine growled when she turned the key. Powerful, expensive. Way too much car for someone who had learned to drive in a parking lot. She put it in gear, stalled immediately. Left pedal clutch, Vincent mumbled. Press down, shift, let up slow. Grace tried again. The car lurched forward, bucking like an angry horse. She wrestled it under control, somehow got it moving. Where am I going? She demanded. Vincent pulled out his phone with shaking hands, dialed. Someone answered, it's me. Vincent said, I need Doc now, shot bad, Grace is driving, she'll bring me. He gave an address Grace didn't recognize, hung up. Who is Doc? Army medic. Runs a clinic in Georgetown. Treats people who can't go to hospitals. Is he good? He's alive. That's all that matters. Vincent's head lolled back. Grace, if I don't make it, you're making it. Don't argue. Stubborn. You have no idea. Grace took a turn too fast, corrected, kept driving. The stick shift was getting easier. Or maybe adrenaline was making her better. They made it to Georgetown in 15 minutes that felt like 15 hours. The address was a rundown building squeezed between a tattoo parlor and a Korean grocery. Grace pulled up to the curb, laid on the horn. A man emerged. 60-some gray hair, wearing surgical scrubs. He took one look at Vincent and started barking orders. Get him inside now. How long ago was he shot? 20 minutes, maybe 30. Grace helped haul Vincent out of the car. He's lost a lot of blood, I can see that. Doc and Grace dragged Vincent through a side door into a room that looked more like a real operating theater than Grace expected. You do these stitches. Yes. Good work. Sloppy but effective. Doc was already cutting away Vincent's shirt, assessing the damage. You his girlfriend, I don't know what I am. Well, whatever you are, you saved his life. Doc started an IV line with practiced efficiency. Now get out. I need to work. I'm a nursing student. Then you know you're not sterile and you're in my way. Out. Grace backed out of the room. Stood in the hallway, still covered in Vincent's blood, her hands shaking so badly she had to shove them in her pockets. A woman appeared. Young, maybe mid-20s, with kind eyes and tattoos covering both arms. You look like you could use coffee. I look like I need a shower and a therapist. Coffee is faster. The woman guided Grace to a small break room. I'm Jade, Doc's assistant. You must be Grace. How do you know my name? Vincent talks about you. Jade poured coffee into a mug that said world's okayest medic. A lot, actually. Which is weird because Vincent doesn't talk about anything personal ever. Grace wrapped her hands around the mug. Warmth. Something normal. He's going to be okay, right? If anyone can save him, it's Doc. He's patched up Vincent before. Twice, actually. Jade sat across from her. You're the waitress from the Velvet Heart. Was the waitress. I'm pretty sure I'm unemployed now. Yeah, probably. Jade smiled sympathetically. For what it's worth, Vincent's never brought anyone here before. Never let anyone see his vulnerable side, so you must matter to him. I barely know him, do you? Jade's eyes were knowing. Because from where I'm sitting, you just drove a dying man across Seattle, stitched him up in a cemetery, and stayed calm through all of it. That's not barely knowing someone. That's understanding them bone deep. Grace didn't know what to say to that. They sat in silence. Grace drank coffee. Jade cleaned blood off her hands with antiseptic wipes and didn't ask questions Grace couldn't answer. An hour later, Doc emerged. He's stable. Stubborn bastard wouldn't go under until he knew you were safe. Can I see him 5 minutes? He needs rest. Grace followed Doc to the recovery room. Vincent was pale but conscious, hooked up to monitors that beeped steadily. He looked younger without the hard edge, almost vulnerable. Hey, he said when he saw her. Hey, yourself. Grace pulled up a chair. You scared me. Scared myself. He tried to shift. Winced. Marco dead. You killed him. Good. There was no remorse in his voice. Just cold satisfaction. One traitor down. How many more, according to my father's documents? At least 8 in my inner circle alone. Vincent's jaw tightened. 8 people I trusted. 8 people who have been waiting for Elias to give the word to betray me. What are you going to do? End this tonight. He grabbed her hand. But first, I need to make sure you're safe. Doc will keep you here. Give you a burner phone, cash, everything you need. When this is over, I'm staying with you. Grace's voice was firm. I'm not hiding while you get yourself killed. Grace, I hit a man with a toilet lid. Shot another one. Stitched up your bullet wound in a cemetery. I'm past the point of being an innocent bystander. Vincent, she squeezed his hand. Whatever happens next, I'm in it with you. Vincent looked at her for a long moment. Something shifted in his expression. Resignation, acceptance, maybe even gratitude. He said quietly, I'm already hurt, my feet are shredded, my hands won't stop shaking, and I'm pretty sure I have PTSD from tonight, but I'm alive. We're both alive, and we're going to stay that way. You sound so sure. I'm not sure of anything. Grace's voice cracked slightly, but I know I can't walk away now. Can't leave you to face this alone. Can't go back to serving steaks and pretending tonight didn't change everything. What did it change? Grace thought about the question. About the woman she had been 12 hours ago, worried about tips and tuition, dreaming of graduation and a nursing career, living a life that was small and safe and predictable. That woman was gone. Everything, she said finally. It changed everything. Vincent pulled her closer. Gentle because of the wound, but still strong. I'm going to keep you alive, Grace Mitchell. Whatever it takes. I promise you that, and I'm going to keep you alive right back. She rested her forehead against his, so we're even. Doc cleared his throat from the doorway. Hate to interrupt, but Guy says it's urgent. Vincent took the phone Doc offered. Talk. Grace watched his face change. Watched him go from wounded man to crime lord in the space of a heartbeat. When many? No. Let him come. I want him to. He hung up. Looked at Grace. Elias knows I'm alive, knows Marco is dead, and he's coming here with every man he's got left. How long do we have? 30 minutes, maybe less. Vincent tried to sit up, groaned. I need to move. Need to get somewhere defensible. You need to stay in bed or you'll tear your stitches. Grace, if Elias gets here and finds me like this, we're both dead. Then we defend this place. Grace's mind raced. Doc, how many exits? 3 front, back, roof access. How many people can you spare? Doc frowned. Me, Jade, and 2 guys who do security. That's it. Against how many of Elias's men? Vincent's expression was grim. At least 20, all trained, all loyal to him, so we're outnumbered 4-1. Grace looked at the documents she had brought from the cemetery, still clutched in her hand. Unless we even the odds. How? Grace thought about everything Vincent had told her about the organization, about loyalty, about people who followed strength. You said half your people are working for Elias, but that means half are still working for you, right? In theory. And call them. Show them the evidence. Prove that Elias killed your father, that Marco was a traitor, that everyone who sided with them has been lied to. Grace held up the documents. Your father left you proof. Use it. Vincent stared at her. Then slowly, despite the pain, he smiled. You're brilliant, you know that. I'm desperate. There is a difference. Grace handed him his phone. Make the calls. I'll help Doc fortify this place. Grace, we don't have time to argue. Move. For the next 20 minutes, Grace became someone she didn't recognize. She helped board windows, moved furniture to create defensive positions, checked weapons she had never touched before tonight, and handed them to people she had just met. Jade worked beside her, calm and efficient. You've never done this before, have you? Does it show? Only a little. Jade smiled. But you're keeping it together, that's what matters. Vincent made call after call from his bed. Each conversation was the same. Short, brutal, honest. He played audio files of Marco confessing. Read excerpts from his father's documents. Asked one question, are you with me or against me? By the time Elias's cars appeared down the street, Vincent had rallied 12 people to their location. Not nearly enough to match Elias's force, but enough to make a stand. Doc helped Vincent into a wheelchair. You're not fighting. The hell I'm not. You fight, you die. Your stitches won't hold. Doc was immovable. You coordinate, you strategize, you lead. But you don't bleed out in my clinic because you're too proud to admit you're injured. Vincent looked like he wanted to argue. Then he caught Grace's eye, saw her expression. Fine, he muttered. I'll coordinate. They took positions. Grace found herself behind a counter with a gun she barely knew how to use and a prayer that she wouldn't have to. Outside, car doors slammed, footsteps. Elias's voice amplified through a megaphone. Vincent, I know you're in there. Send out the girl and maybe I'll let the rest of you live. Vincent wheeled himself to a window, looked out. Grace saw his expression change. What? She whispered. He brought everyone, every man still loyal to him. Vincent's voice was tight. And they've got the building surrounded. So we're trapped. So we're exactly where I want us. Vincent pulled out his phone, made one more call. It's time. Move in. Grace frowned. Move in who? Sirens. Dozens of them. Police cars screaming down the street from every direction. Elias's men started to scatter. Too late. The police were already there. Guns drawn. Shouting orders. Grace stared at Vincent. You called the cops. I called the FBI. Vincent's smile was grim. Turns out my father's documents, they're evidence of federal crimes going back 20 years. Racketeering, murder, conspiracy, everything we need to bring down Elias and everyone working with him. But you're part of that organization. I am, and I'm going to face consequences for my part. Vincent met her eyes. But this was never about me escaping justice, Grace. This was about ending what my uncle started. Making sure my father's dream of going legitimate didn't die with him. Outside, FBI agents were arresting Elias. His screams of rage carried clearly through the boarded windows. Grace felt her knees go weak. It's over, the immediate threat. Yes, Vincent reached for her hand, but the rest, the investigation, the trials, the rebuilding, it's just beginning. What happens to you depends on how cooperative I am. My lawyer thinks I can cut a deal. Immunity in exchange for testimony against everyone in my father's documents. He squeezed her hand. I'll probably lose everything. The organization, the money, the power. But I'll be free of it. Finally free, and me. Vincent's expression was soft. You go back to your life, finish nursing school, become the person you were meant to be. No more running, no more danger, just normal. Normal. Grace tested the word. It felt strange after everything. What if I don't want normal anymore? Grace, what if I want to stay, help you rebuild something better? Be part of whatever comes next. She moved closer. You said I saved your life. But Vincent, you saved mine too. You showed me I'm stronger than I thought. Braver, more capable. I can't just go back to serving steaks and pretending none of this happened. You could die if you stay close to me. I could die crossing the street. At least this way I'd be living first. Grace's voice was certain. I'm not asking for forever. I'm asking for a chance to see what we could be when we're not running for our lives. Vincent looked at her, really looked, saw past the blood and fear and exhaustion to something else. Hope maybe, or possibility. You're insane, he said finally. Probably. Grace smiled. Is that a yes? That's a we will see. He pulled her closer, careful of his wound. But Grace, when this is all over, when I'm out of the hospital and you're out of danger, and we have time to actually breathe. Yeah, I'm taking you to the worst diner in Seattle, and buying you the greasiest burger they serve. No 5-star restaurants, no crystal glasses, just you, me, and food that's terrible for us. Grace laughed, real laughter for the first time in hours. That sounds perfect. Outside, FBI agents were loading Elias into a car. He was still screaming, still fighting, still refusing to accept that he had lost. Vincent watched him go with no expression at all. Any regrets? Grace asked quietly. About bringing him down. Vincent's voice was firm, about the cut, about what I had to do, about dragging you into this. He was quiet for a moment. Yeah, I have regrets about that, don't. Grace rested her head on his shoulder. I made my choices tonight, every single one, and I'd make them again. Even hitting that guy with the toilet lid. Especially that, she smiled. Turns out I'm not as soft as I thought. No, you're still wrapped in compassion. Vincent kissed the top of her head. That's rarer than you think. Doc appeared in the doorway. FBI wants statements from both of you. We'll give them. Vincent straightened in his wheelchair. But first, Grace needs medical attention. Her feet are shredded, and she's probably in shock. I'm fine, you're getting checked out, that's non-negotiable. Grace wanted to argue, but honestly she was exhausted. Her feet hurt, her hands hurt, everything hurt. Fine, she muttered. Jade led her to an examination room, cleaned her feet properly, bandaged them, gave her antibiotics and water and a protein bar that tasted like cardboard but filled the empty space in her stomach. You're lucky, Jade said. No major damage, just superficial cuts. They'll heal in a week or two. That's lucky compared to what could have happened tonight. Yeah, that's incredibly lucky. Grace thought about everything. The gunfire, the kidnapping, Vincent bleeding out, Elias's army surrounding them. Jade was right. They had been lucky. Impossibly, inexplicably lucky. An FBI agent came in an hour later. Young professional with tired eyes that said he had been working this case for a long time. Ms. Mitchell, I'm Agent Torres. I need to get your statement about the events of this evening. Grace told him everything. The restaurant, the receipt, the escape, the warehouse, the cemetery, the shootout. All of it. She didn't leave anything out. Didn't try to make herself sound better or braver than she was. When she finished, Torres was quiet for a long moment. You saved Vincent Callahan's life multiple times tonight, he said finally. He saved mine too, so we're even. That's not how the law works, maybe it should be. Grace met his eyes. Look, I don't know what Vincent's done, what crimes he's committed, what guilt he carries. But I know what he did tonight. He stood between me and danger over and over, when it would have been easier to let me die. That has to count for something. It does. But it doesn't erase everything else. I'm not asking you to erase it. I'm asking you to remember that people are more complicated than the worst things they've done. You care about him. I barely know him, but yeah, I care. Grace's voice was steady. Is that going to be a problem for you? Probably. Torres closed his notebook. Vincent Callahan is going to be tied up in legal proceedings for years. Even with immunity, even with cooperation, his life will be under a microscope. Anyone close to him will be investigated, questioned, watched. So you're a nursing student with a clean record and a bright future. Staying involved with Vincent means risking all of that. Noted. Grace stood. Are we done for now? Torres handed her a card. You'll need to testify eventually. And Ms. Mitchell, be careful. The people Vincent's testifying against have long memories and longer reach. You're a target now whether you want to be or not. Grace took the card. I've been a target since I wrote 3 words on a receipt. Might as well make it count. She found Vincent in another room giving his own statement to a different agent. He looked exhausted but alert, answering questions with the precision of someone who had been preparing for this moment for years. When he saw Grace, something in his expression softened. I'll be a while, he mouthed. She nodded, found a chair in the hallway. Sat down despite her aching feet. Jade brought her a blanket. Doc brought her coffee. The FBI agents came and went, asking follow-up questions, taking photographs, collecting evidence. Dawn turned into morning. Morning turned into afternoon. Grace must have fallen asleep because when she opened her eyes, Vincent was there, still in the wheelchair, still pale but smiling at her. "Hey," he said softly. "Hey." Grace straightened, wincing at the crick in her neck. "How long was I out?" "3, you needed it." He wheeled closer. "They're done with us for today anyway. Doc says I need to stay here for observation, but you're free to go." "Go where?" "I've arranged an apartment for you. Safe location, new locks, security system. My lawyer will set you up with everything you need." "Vincent, let me finish." He took her hand. "You can walk away now, Grace. The FBI will protect you. You'll testify eventually. But until then, you can go back to school, back to your life, back to normal. Or you can stay. Help me figure out what comes next. Be part of rebuilding something better from all this wreckage." His voice was quiet. "I have no right to ask. You've already given more than anyone should. But if you want to stay, I want you to." Grace looked at him. This man who had started as a stranger, become something she didn't have words for yet. This man who had protected her, trusted her, shown her strength she didn't know she had. "I'm staying," she said, "but on one condition." "Name it." "When this is over. When the trials are done, and you've rebuilt, and we've both had time to become actual people instead of trauma survivors. Yeah. You take me to that diner, and we have the worst burgers in Seattle. And we talk about normal things like movies and books, and what we want our lives to look like when they're not filled with gunfire and betrayal." Vincent smiled, real and genuine, full of something that looked dangerously close to hope. "Deal," he said. "It's a deal." The apartment Vincent's lawyer arranged was in Fremont, tucked above a vintage clothing store that smelled like mothballs and broken dreams. Grace stood in the doorway holding a key she hadn't asked for, staring at furniture that wasn't hers. "It's temporary." Vincent's lawyer, a sharp woman named Patricia Chen, said from behind her. "Until the trial. Until things settle." "Things won't settle." Grace walked inside anyway. "You know that." "I know that. Let's stop pretending." Patricia's expression didn't change. "Vincent asked me to make sure you were safe." "This is safe. Safe is relative when half of Seattle's underworld wants me dead." Grace dropped her bag. Someone had retrieved what was salvageable from her old apartment, which wasn't much. "But thank you for this. For everything." Patricia handed her 3 phones, burner phones. "Use them in rotation. Don't call the same number twice from the same phone. Don't establish patterns. I'm a nursing student, not a spy." "You're Vincent Callahan's." Patricia paused, searching for the word associate, which makes you a target. "So you're a spy now, whether you like it or not." Grace took the phones. They felt heavy, like responsibility she hadn't earned. "He's going to be okay, right?" she asked quietly. "Vincent. The FBI, won't they lock him up forever? If he cooperates fully, if his testimony brings down everyone in those documents, he's looking at probation. Maybe house arrest. The prosecutor wants the big fish, not Vincent." Patricia's voice softened slightly, "But it depends on what else they find. What else he's done that's not covered by the immunity deal. There is more. There's always more." Patricia moved toward the door. "Stay inside tonight. Don't order delivery. There is food in the fridge. Don't answer the door. Don't trust anyone you don't absolutely have to. And Grace. Yeah, Vincent cares about you. I've worked for him for 3 years and I've never seen him care about anyone outside his dead parents and Father Michael. So whatever this is between you two, it's real. Which means people will use it against him. I can handle myself, can you?" Patricia's eyes were knowing. "Because from where I stand, you're a 24-year-old nursing student who has killed one man, shot another, and stitched up a gunshot wound in a cemetery. You're doing well considering. But you're not invincible, and the people coming for you will exploit any weakness they find." Grace wanted to argue. Wanted to prove she was tougher than everyone thought. But Patricia was already gone, and Grace was alone in an apartment that wasn't hers, wearing clothes that weren't hers, living a life that belonged to someone braver. She lasted 3 hours before the walls started closing in. The burner phone rang. Not hers. She had left all 3 on the counter. Someone else's phone ringing from inside the couch cushions. Grace's blood went cold. She hadn't checked the furniture, hadn't thought to look for bugs or trackers or phones that shouldn't exist. She pulled out the phone. "Unknown number," she answered. "Grace Mitchell." The voice was unfamiliar. "Male, calm. We need to talk. Who is this?" "Someone who knows you're in apartment 3B above Retro Revival on Fremont Avenue. Someone who knows you're alone. Someone who could have killed you 3 times already tonight, but chose not to." Grace's hand tightened on the phone. "What do you want?" "To offer you a deal. Walk away from Vincent. Disappear. We'll give you money, new identity, safety. You can finish school anywhere in the country. Live whatever life you want. Just stop helping him destroy what his father built. His father wanted it destroyed. His father was a coward who forgot what it takes to survive in our world." The voice hardened. "Vincent is making the same mistake and you're enabling him. So kill me. If I'm such a problem, why not just kill me? Because you're leverage. Because Vincent will do anything to keep you alive. Because," the voice paused, "because you remind me of someone. Someone who made the wrong choice and paid for it. I'm giving you a chance she never got. Who are you? Someone who wants this to end without more bloodshed. Someone who knows the FBI can't protect you all forever. Someone who..." Grace hung up, threw the phone across the room, grabbed her own burner, dialed Vincent. He answered on the first ring. Grace, what's wrong? There was a phone hidden in my apartment. Someone called, knew exactly where I was, offered me money to disappear. The words tumbled out. Vincent, this place isn't safe. Patricia said it was safe, but it's not. Breathe, Grace, breathe. Vincent's voice was calm. Where are you right now? Living room, by the windglass. Should I leave? Should I run? No. Running makes you an easier target. Stay there, I'm sending people. What people? How do I know they're yours and not? They'll give you a code word, Phoenix. Anyone who doesn't say Phoenix, you shoot. Understand? Grace looked at the gun Patricia had left her. I understand. I'm sorry. Vincent's voice cracked slightly. I'm so sorry, Grace. I should have checked that apartment myself. Should have made sure. You're in a hospital bed recovering from a gunshot wound. You can't do everything. Grace moved to the door, checked the locks. Who knew about this place? Patricia, Doc, 2 guys from my security team. Vincent was quiet for a moment. And Marco, but he's dead. So either Patricia leaked it, which I don't believe, or someone in my security team is still compromised. How many people can you actually trust right now? You, Doc, Father Michael, and maybe Patricia. His laugh was bitter. Out of an organization of 200 people, I can trust 4, 5. You can trust yourself, can I? Vincent's voice was barely audible. Because I'm the one who put you in danger. I'm the one who... Knock at the door. Someone's here, she whispered. Don't answer. Wait for the code word. Another knock, harder. Miss Mitchell, it's Detective Callahan. Your brother, open up. Grace's heart stopped. It's my brother. Your brother is in Portland. He must have driven up when he heard, Vincent, he's a cop. He's safe. Nobody is safe. Don't open that door until he gives the code word. Grace moved to the door. Danny, is that really you? Of course it's me, Mom called. Said you were in some kind of trouble. I've been trying to reach you for hours. Danny's voice was tight with worry. Grace, please let me in. We need to talk. What's the code word? Grace asked. Silence. Grace, what are you talking about? Just the code word, Danny. If you're really here to help me, you'll know it. More silence. Then? I don't know any code word. I'm your brother. Your actual brother who changed your diapers and taught you to ride a bike and drove 6 hours in the middle of the night, because I thought you were in danger. Grace looked at the phone. Vincent was listening. She could hear him breathing. It could be him, she whispered. It could be a trap. He's my brother. He's a cop who could be compromised, bribed, or threatened. Don't open that door. Grace's hand hovered over the deadbolt. Every instinct screamed to trust family. But every lesson from tonight whispered that trust got you killed. Danny, she called through the door. Tell me something only you and I know. Something from childhood. Jesus, Grace, tell me. A long pause. When you were 7, you broke Mom's favorite vase playing indoor baseball with me. We blamed it on the dog even though we didn't have a dog. We said a neighbor's dog broke in. Grace's throat tightened. That was real. That was Danny. She unlocked the door. Danny stood there. Older than she remembered, tired, wearing his off-duty jeans and blazer. Behind him stood 2 men she didn't recognize. Thank God. Danny moved forward. Grace, are you okay? Mom said you were involved in some kind of shooting. The men behind Danny raised their guns and Grace slammed the door, locked it, ran. Vincent, it's a trap. Gunshots exploded through the door. Wood splintered. Grace dove behind the couch, still clutching the phone. Grace. Danny's voice, anguished. Grace, please. They have my kids. They said if I didn't bring you out, they'd kill Sarah and Emma. Grace. She froze. Sarah and Emma. Danny's daughters, her nieces. They're using him, Vincent said in her ear. They have his family. He's compromised and I have to help him. You help him by staying alive. Vincent's voice was iron. Grace, listen to me. If they get you, they kill you and Danny's kids anyway. That's how this works. You give them what they want, and they eliminate all witnesses. More gunshots. The door was disintegrating. Grace grabbed the gun Patricia left. Checked the magazine like she had been taught. Full. She had never actually fired this gun. Barely knew how it worked beyond point and shoot. The door burst open. The 2 men came through. Fast, professional, tactical. Sweeping the room with practiced efficiency. Grace fired. The recoil was worse than she expected. The shot went wide. Hit the wall, but it made them dive for cover. Go. Vincent screamed through the phone. Back door. Fire escape. Move. Grace ran through the kitchen. Out the back onto a rusted fire escape that groaned under her weight. Down 3 stories of metal stairs while gunshots chased her, and Danny screamed her name and her entire world shattered into pieces. She hit the alley running, bare feet again. She had kicked off her shoes to move faster. The pavement was freezing and wet and cut into her already damaged feet, but she didn't stop. A car screeched around the corner. Grace raised her gun, ready to die fighting. The window rolled down Judd's face. Get in. Grace didn't question, dove into the back seat. Jade floored it before Grace even got the door closed. How did you? Vincent called. Said you needed extraction. Jade took a turn that made the car fishtail. Are you hit? No, but my brother, they have his kids. I know. Vincent's working on it. Jade's eyes met Grace's in the rearview mirror. You okay? No. I'm really not okay. Yeah, that's normal. Jade handed back a phone. Vincent wants to talk to you. Grace took it. Vincent, are you hurt? His voice was ragged. I'm fine. Jade got me, but Danny. I have people tracking the men who took his daughters. We'll get them back. Vincent sounded like he was in pain, like he was moving when he shouldn't be. Grace, I'm so sorry. I should have anticipated they'd go after your family. Should have protected them. You can't protect everyone. I can try. I should have tried harder. He was breathing hard. Doc is losing his mind right now. I left against medical advice. Vincent, I'm fine. I'm functional and I'm ending this tonight. His voice was cold. Final. No more waiting. No more playing defense. I'm taking the fight to them. Who is them? We don't even know who is behind this. Yes, we do. Vincent was quiet for a moment. I've been putting pieces together. The phone call you got. The way they knew about the apartment. The attack on your brother's family. There is only one person with that kind of reach, that kind of coordination. Elias is in FBI custody. Elias is a figurehead, a distraction. Vincent's voice was bitter. My father's documents showed 8 traitors in my inner circle. We've accounted for Marco, but the other 7, one of them is running this whole operation, has been from the beginning. Grace's mind raced. Who? Someone I trusted. Someone close enough to know all my safe houses, all my security protocols, all my weaknesses. He paused. Someone who's been playing both sides so perfectly I never saw it coming. Vincent who? Patricia. Grace's blood turned to ice. Your lawyer, she just gave me phones, set up the apartment, she set you up in an apartment she knew was compromised. Gave you phones she could track, put you exactly where they wanted you. Vincent's voice was hollow. I trusted her with everything, and she sold me out to the highest bidder. Why? Money probably, or blackmail, or she genuinely believes Elias's way is better for the organization. Vincent sounded exhausted. Does it matter? She betrayed us and now we have to deal with it. Jade turned down another street. Where am I going, boss? Safe house number 7, the one in Ballard. Vincent gave an address. Nobody knows about that one except me and my parents, and they're dead. Are you sure? Grace asked. Are you absolutely sure it's Patricia? She's the only one who knew about all 3 locations. Your apartment, Danny's house in Portland, Doc's clinic. She coordinated security for all of them. Vincent's voice was certain. I'd bet my life on it. You're betting my life on it too. I know, and I'm sorry, but we're out of options and out of time. Patricia knows we're on to her by now. She'll accelerate whatever endgame she's planned. We have maybe 6 hours before she disappears with all my money and all my secrets. What do you need me to do? Stay alive. Let Jade take you to the safe house. Wait for me there. Vincent paused. And Grace, if something happens to me tonight, nothing's happening to you. But if it does, there is a key taped under the bathroom sink at the Ballard house. Safe deposit box at First National Bank. Everything you need to disappear is in there. Money, documents, contacts. Promise me you'll use it. I'm not disappearing without you. Promise me. Grace flinched at the intensity. I promise. Good. Vincent's voice softened. I'll see you soon. Stay safe. He hung up. Grace stared at the phone, felt the weight of everything crashing down. Her brother was compromised. Her nieces were in danger. Vincent's lawyer had betrayed them, and she was running through Seattle in someone else's car with bare bleeding feet and a gun she barely knew how to use. This is insane, she whispered. Yeah, Jade agreed. Welcome to Vincent's world. It doesn't get less insane. You just get better at handling it. They drove in silence. Grace watched the city slide past. Normal people living normal lives, completely unaware that 2 cars behind them, someone was probably planning how to kill her. The Ballard safe house was actually a house, not an apartment. Small, unremarkable. The kind of place you drive past without noticing. Jade parked in the garage, waited for the door to close before letting Grace out. Doc said to check your feet, Jade said, pulling out a medical kit. You keep running on them like this, you'll do permanent damage. Grace sat on the garage steps. Let Jade clean and rebandage her feet with gentle efficiency. How long have you worked for Vincent? Grace asked. 2 years. Doc recruited me from the VA hospital. I was treating combat vets with PTSD, burning out fast. Doc offered me better pay and more interesting work. Jade smiled slightly. Didn't mention the interesting work would include gunfights and midnight extractions. Do you regret it? Sometimes. When I'm patching up bullet wounds at 3 a.m. and wondering if this is the night someone doesn't make it. Jade finished the bandaging. But Vincent's different than most guys in his position. He actually cares. Actually tries to do right. That's rare enough to be worth the risk. What if Patricia's plan works? What if she takes everything from him? Then we rebuild from nothing. Wouldn't be the first time. Jade stood. Come on. Let's get you inside. There is food, shower, actual clean clothes. You look like you've been through a war. I feel like it too. Inside the house was sparse but functional. Jade showed Grace to a bedroom, pointed out the bathroom, left her alone to process everything. Grace stood under the shower until the water ran cold, watched blood and dirt swirl down the drain, tried to remember who she had been 48 hours ago. That person was gone. Dead and buried. In her place was someone harder. Someone who had killed and survived and kept moving forward because stopping meant death. She dressed in clothes she found in the closet. Jeans that fit well enough. A sweat that smelled like lavender detergent. Normal clothes. Civilian clothes. Like she was a real person and not a target. Her phone rang, not the burner. Her actual phone, the one she thought was destroyed. She answered without thinking. Hello, Grace Mitchell. A woman's voice. Professional, cold. This is Patricia Chen. Grace's hand tightened on the phone. I know who you are. Good. Then you know I'm calling to make you an offer. Patricia sounded completely calm. Like she wasn't a traitor. like she hadn't just tried to have Grace killed. Walk away tonight. I'll make sure your brother's daughters are released unharmed. I'll make sure you have enough money to disappear. All you have to do is stop helping Vincent destroy himself. He's not destroying himself. He's building something better. He's building a fantasy. The Callahan Syndicate can't go legitimate. Too many people depend on it staying exactly what it is. Profitable, powerful, and underground. Patricia's voice was matter of fact. Vincent inherited his father's idealism, but not his father's pragmatism. Thomas knew when to stop fighting reality. Reality is what we make it. How philosophical, also how naive. Patricia sighed. I like you, Grace. You're brave and loyal, and you genuinely believe you can save Vincent from himself. But you can't, and if you keep trying, you'll die. Is that really what you want? What I want is for you to tell me where my nieces are. Safe for now, as long as you cooperate. Patricia paused. Here is what is going to happen. You're going to call Vincent. Tell him you can't do this anymore, that you're walking away. He'll try to convince you otherwise, but you'll stay firm, then you'll disappear. And in 48 hours, your nieces will be found safe and unharmed. And Vincent will finally understand that some battles can't be won, and if I refuse, then I leak your location to every person who wants Vincent dead. You'll have a dozen hit teams on you within the hour. Vincent will try to protect you. He'll fail. You'll both die. And your nieces will die too because they're witnesses to a kidnapping. Patricia's voice was ice. Or you can be smart. Save yourself. Save your family. Let Vincent face his consequences alone. Grace's mind raced. Patricia was giving her an out, a chance to survive. All she had to do was abandon the man who had protected her, saved her, shown her she was stronger than she had ever imagined. I need time to think, Grace said. You have 30 minutes. Then I start making examples. Patricia hung up. Grace stood there, phone in hand, facing an impossible choice. Save herself and her family, or save Vincent and risk losing everything. Jade appeared in the doorway. Who was that, Patricia? She's giving me a way out. Are you taking it? Grace thought about Vincent in that cemetery bleeding out while telling her to run. Thought about him choosing to protect her over protecting himself again and again. Thought about the deal they had made to see this through, to weather it, to build something better from the wreckage. No, she said finally. I'm not taking it, but I need you to help me do something incredibly stupid. Jade smiled. Those are my favorite kind of things. 30 minutes later, Grace was on the phone with Patricia again. I'll do it. I'll walk away. But I need proof my nieces are safe first. Smart girl. Patricia sounded pleased. I'll send you a video. Live feed. You'll see they're unharmed. Then you make the call to Vincent. The video came through. Danny's daughters, 6 and 8 years old, sitting in what looked like a hotel room. They looked scared but unhurt. Grace's chest tightened, satisfied. Patricia asked. Yes. Where do I need to go? Patricia gave an address. Downtown Seattle. Public place. Be there in 1 hour. Come alone. I'll have people watching. If Vincent or anyone else shows up, the girls die. I understand. Grace hung up, looked at Jade. She bought it. Good. Jade was already typing on her laptop. I traced the video. Your nieces are at the Mayflower Hotel, room 412. Doc is already moving people into position. What about Vincent? Jade hesitated. He's not answering his phone. Grace's blood went cold. What do you mean he's not answering? I mean, he left the clinic 3 hours ago and nobody has seen him since. Jade's face was worried. Grace, I think he went after Patricia alone. That idiot. Grace grabbed her jacket. Where would he go? Where would Patricia be? Her office maybe, or Jade's eyes widened. Oh no. What? Patricia's been living in the penthouse above the Velvet Heart, the restaurant where all this started. Jade was already moving. If Vincent figured that out, he'd go there to confront her. Grace's heart hammered, and she'd be ready for him. They ran for the car. Grace's feet screamed in protest, but she ignored them. Ignored everything except the sick certainty that Vincent was walking into a trap, and she was the only one who could stop it. The drive to the Velvet Heart took 15 minutes that felt like 15 hours. Jade broke every traffic law, ran red lights, nearly caused 3 accidents. They screeched to a stop outside the restaurant. The place was dark, closed. Crime scene tape still fluttered across the entrance from the shooting 2 nights ago. Grace was out of the car before it fully stopped, running for the side entrance, the same door she and Vincent had escaped through a lifetime ago. It was unlocked. Grace pulled her gun, moved inside. The restaurant was dark and empty and smelled like death and expensive wine. Upstairs. Patricia lived upstairs. Grace found the stairs, climbed. Every step was agony on her bandaged feet, but she didn't slow down. At the top, a door open, light spilling into the hallway. Grace moved through the doorway and froze. Vincent was there on his knees, blood soaking through his shirt. He had torn his stitches. Patricia stood over him, gun pointed at his head. Right on time, Patricia said calmly. I was wondering if you'd fall for the bait. Grace raised her gun. Step away from him. Or what? You'll shoot me. Nursing students don't shoot people, Grace. They save them. Patricia smiled. You're out of your depth here. I've already killed 1 man and shot another. 3rd time is a charm. Grace's voice was steady even though her hand shook. Step away. Patricia's expression changed. She had underestimated Grace. Fatal mistake. Vincent, are you okay? Grace asked without taking her eyes off Patricia. Been better. His voice was weak. Grace, you shouldn't be here. Yeah, well, you shouldn't be bleeding. So we're both making poor choices tonight. Patricia laughed. I like you, I really do. Which makes this harder. She shifted her aim from Vincent to Grace. Put down the gun. No, put it down or I shoot him. You were going to shoot him anyway. That's why we're here. Grace took a step forward. But here's the thing, Patricia. You need me alive. You need me to disappear so Vincent loses hope. So he gives up. But if you kill him now, I've got nothing to lose. And I will absolutely shoot you. Patricia's eyes narrowed. You're bluffing. Try me. For a long moment, nobody moved. Mexican standoff. 2 women with guns, 1 bleeding man, and a choice that would determine who walked out alive. Then Vincent moved. Despite his injuries, despite the blood loss, he surged upward. Grabbed Patricia's gun, twisted. The weapon discharged. Grace couldn't tell if anyone was hit. She fired. Aimed for Patricia's shoulder like she had been taught. Center mass, they had said, but Grace couldn't kill in cold blood. Not yet. Not like this. The bullet hit Patricia's arm. She screamed, dropped her weapon. Vincent collapsed. Grace ran to him, pressed her hands to his wound. Blood everywhere. Too much blood. Stay with me. Grace's voice cracked. His eyes fluttered open. Found hers. You came back. Of course I came back. We have a deal. Remember, worst burgers in Seattle. Tears ran down her face. You don't get to die before I collect. Wouldn't dream of it. Jade burst. 2 minutes out. FBI is 2 minutes out. We need to. She saw the scene. Oh hell. Help me stop the bleeding, Grace barked. Together they worked. Packed the wound, applied pressure kept Vincent conscious while Patricia writhed on the floor clutching her arm, and sirens wailed in the distance. Grace, Vincent whispered. The girls. Danny's girls. If, Grace smoothed his hair back, everyone is safe. It's over. Is it? It better be, because I'm not doing this again. She managed a weak smile. Once is enough crazy for a lifetime. Vincent smiled back. Liar. You love it. I love being alive. That's different. The FBI arrived. Paramedics. Chaos. They loaded Vincent onto a stretcher. Grace refused to let go of his hand. Agent Torres appeared. Looked at Patricia. Looked at Vincent. Looked at Grace, covered in blood and holding a gun. Ms. Mitchell, he said tiredly. We really need to stop meeting like this. Agreed. Grace finally holstered the weapon. Patricia Chen is the traitor. She coordinated everything. She has evidence on her phone. Texts, calls, everything you need. Torres's eyebrows rose. How do you know that? Because I'm learning. Grace looked at Vincent being loaded into the ambulance, and because the people I care about taught me well. Vincent survived surgery. Barely. The doctor, a real one this time, not Doc working out of a back alley clinic, told Grace he had lost too much blood, torn too many stitches, pushed his body past any reasonable limit. 3 hours in the OR, 2 units of blood. Prayers from people who didn't usually pray. Grace sat in the waiting room wearing someone else's clothes and her own fear. Agent Torres had questioned her for an hour, then let her go with a warning that sounded more like concern. Jade brought coffee that tasted like dirt. Father Michael appeared at some point. Sat beside her in silence, offered comfort in the form of presence instead of platitudes. When the surgeon finally emerged, Grace stood so fast her vision blurred. He's stable, the doctor said. Critical but stable. The next 48 hours will determine everything. Grace didn't breathe properly until she was allowed into his room. Vincent looked small in the hospital bed. Tubes and wires connecting him to machines that beeped steadily. His face was pale, his breathing shallow, but his eyes opened when she touched his hand. Hey, he whispered. Hey yourself. You almost died again. Occupational hazard. Your occupation now is staying alive. Doctor's orders. She squeezed his hand gently. Danny's daughters are safe. FBI raided the hotel. Got them out without incident. They're with your brother now. He okay, traumatized, angry, blames himself. Grace blinked back tears, but alive. His girls are alive. That's what matters. Vincent closed his eyes briefly, and Patricia, talking. Giving the FBI everything in exchange for a reduced sentence. Names, dates, operations, bank accounts, everything. Grace's voice hardened. Torres says her testimony will bring down what's left of Elias's network. It's over, Vincent. Really over. Nothing is ever really over. Then this chapter is, and we're alive to see the next one. Grace smoothed his hair back like she had in the penthouse, in the cemetery, in every moment when he had been close to death, and she had refused to let him go. Sleep now. I'll be here when you wake up. Promise. Promise. She kept that promise through the night. Through the next day. Through doctors checking vitals and nurses changing IV bags and Agent Torres returning with more questions. Grace sat beside Vincent's bed and refused to leave. On the 3rd day, he was awake enough to actually talk. Not just whispers and fragments, but a real conversation. You should go home, he said. Get real rest, real food. I don't have a home anymore, remember. My apartment was raided, my safe house was compromised, and I've been living in hospital chairs for 72 hours. Grace crossed her arms. So no, I'm not going anywhere, stubborn. You keep saying that like it's a bad thing. Vincent almost smiled, then his expression changed, went serious in a way that made Grace's stomach drop. We need to talk about what happens next. You heal, I finish nursing school. We figure out the rest as we go, Grace. His voice was gentle but firm. I'm going to testify against everyone in my father's documents. 8 people in my organization. Dozens more in Elias's network. People with connections, with resources, with very long memories, so So you'll be a target for the rest of your life. Anyone who wants revenge against me will look at you and see leverage, see weakness, see an easy way to hurt me. Vincent's eyes were dark with guilt. I can't protect you from that. Can't keep you safe from people who will spend years waiting for the right moment to strike. Then we'll be careful. We'll be smart. That's not enough. His voice rose, making monitors beep faster. Grace, you don't understand what you're signing up for. This isn't romance. This isn't some story where love conquers all. This is a life of looking over your shoulder, of never knowing who to trust, of wondering if every stranger on the street is the one who has finally come to collect. Grace stood, moved closer to the bed, looked him dead in the eyes. You think I don't know that? You think I haven't spent the last 3 days thinking about nothing but what my life looks like now? I've killed someone, Vincent. Shot another person. Watched you bleed out twice. My nieces were kidnapped because of me. My brother was threatened. My entire world exploded. Exactly. So why would you? Because I choose to. Her voice was steel. Because in the middle of all that chaos and fear and violence, I found something real. Someone real. You showed me I'm stronger than I thought. Braver. More capable. And yeah, maybe that strength was always there, but you're the one who made me see it, Grace. I'm not done. She took his hand. You want to protect me? Fine. Teach me. Train me. Show me how to survive in your world. But don't you dare tell me to walk away because you think I'm too fragile to handle it. I've already proven I'm not. Vincent was quiet for a long moment. You deserve better than this life. I deserve to choose my own life. And I'm choosing this. I'm choosing you. Grace's voice softened. Unless you're trying to tell me you don't want me here, in which case, say it clearly and I'll go. But if this is about protecting me from danger, save your breath. I'm in danger whether I'm with you or not. At least together we stand a chance. Vincent looked at her. Really looked. Saw past the hospital exhaustion and the determination to something deeper. Fear, maybe, hope. Definitely. The same impossible hope he felt burning in his own chest. You're absolutely insane, he said finally. Probably. Is that a yes? That's a when I get out of this hospital. We're having a very long conversation about what you're really signing up for. His grip on her hand tightened. Want me after that conversation? Then yes. God help us both, but yes. Grace leaned down, kissed his forehead. I'll hold you to that. A nurse appeared in the doorway. Ms. Mitchell, there is someone here to see you. Says he's your brother. Grace stiffened. Danny, should I tell him you're not available? Grace looked at Vincent. He nodded slightly. It's okay. You should talk to him. She found Danny in the waiting room, looking 10 years older than when she had last seen him through a splintered door. He stood when he saw her, hands shoved in his pockets, guilt written across every line of his face. Grace, his voice cracked. I'm so sorry. I am so goddamn sorry. Are the girls okay? They're fine. Scared but fine. Sarah won't sleep without the light on, and Emma has nightmares. But they're alive because of you. Danny's eyes were wet. The FBI told me what you did. How you helped find them. How he couldn't finish. I did what I had to do. Grace's voice was quiet. Same as you. They threatened your babies, Danny. Nobody blames you for trying to save them. I almost got you killed. You didn't. I'm here. I'm fine. Are you? Danny looked at her. Really looked. Saw the exhaustion, the bandaged feet, the way she held herself like someone expecting another attack. Grace, what has happened to you? Mom called me crying. Said you were involved in organized crime. That you were with some mob boss. Vincent is not a mob boss anymore. He's cooperating with the FBI, testifying, going legitimate. And you believe that. I believe him. There is a difference. Grace crossed her arms. Look, I know this isn't what you wanted for me. Nursing school, safe career, normal life. But that life is gone, Danny. It died the second I wrote 3 words on a receipt to save a stranger. You could get it back. Witness protection. New identity. Fresh start. Running from my life isn't living it. Grace's voice was firm. I'm not asking for your approval. I'm just asking you not to hate me for my choices. Danny was quiet for a long time. Then he pulled her into a hug. Fierce and desperate and full of all the things he couldn't say. I could never hate you. You're my baby sister. I just want you safe. I want that too. But safe doesn't mean hiding. Grace hugged him back. I'm stronger than you think, yeah. Danny's voice was thick. I'm starting to see that. They talked for another hour. Danny told her about Sarah and Emma. About the therapy they would need. About rebuilding after trauma. Grace told him about Vincent. Not everything, but enough. About the man who had wanted to be a lawyer, who had tried to go legitimate, who had protected her at every turn, even when it cost him everything. When Danny finally left, he gave her one more piece of advice. Be careful who you trust. Even the people you love can surprise you. Grace thought about that as she returned to Vincent's room. About trust and betrayal and how thin the line was between them. About Patricia, who had seemed loyal right up until she wasn't. About Marco, who had been family until he was enemy. Vincent was awake, watching the door like he had been waiting for her. Danny okay? He asked. He will be eventually. Grace sat back in her chair. He thinks I'm crazy for staying with you. He's probably right, probably. She smiled slightly. But I've always been a little crazy. Just never had a reason to let it show before. The next 2 weeks were a blur. Vincent healed slowly. Grace finished her testimony to the FBI. Hours of questions, of reliving every moment from the Velvet Heart to the final confrontation with Patricia. Agent Torres was thorough, professional, and surprisingly kind. You did good work, he told her when they were done. Most people would have broken under this kind of pressure. You thrived. I survived. That's different than thriving. Is it? Torres smiled slightly. Because from where I sit, you not only survived, you helped take down one of the biggest criminal organizations on the West Coast. That's more than surviving, Ms. Mitchell. That's making a difference. Grace didn't feel like she had made a difference. She felt tired, scared, changed in ways she was still trying to understand. But when she walked back into Vincent's hospital room and saw him sitting up, actually eating real food instead of subsisting on fluids, something in her chest unclenched. You're healing? She said slowly. Doc says another week before I can leave. Vincent set down his fork. Grace, I've been thinking, that sounds dangerous. Probably is. He gestured to the chair. Sit, please. She sat, braced herself for whatever was coming. When I get out of here, I'm done with the syndicate completely. The FBI is seizing all the illegal assets, and I'm using what's left of the legitimate businesses to start over. Actual legitimate legal clean. Vincent's voice was steady. It won't be much. Won't be penthouse apartments and expensive cars, but it will be honest work. Okay, I'm also moving out of Seattle. Somewhere quieter. Somewhere I can rebuild without looking over my shoulder every 5 minutes. He paused. Somewhere safe. Grace's heart sank. You're leaving, I'm asking if you want with me. The words hung in the air between them. Grace stared at him, trying to process what he was really asking. Come with you, she repeated slowly. Yes, help me build something new. Finish your nursing degree somewhere else. Start over together. Vincent's eyes were vulnerable in a way she had never seen. I know it's crazy. I know we barely know each other. But Grace, these past 2 weeks have shown me something I can't ignore anymore. What? That I don't want to do this without you, any of it. The testimony, the rebuilding, the boring normal life I'm about to lead. None of it means anything if you're not part of it. His voice dropped. I'm in love with you. Have been since you handed me that receipt with shaking hands and eyes that said, save yourself. I didn't know it then, but I know it now. Grace couldn't breathe. Vincent, you don't have to answer right away. Take time about it, talk to your family. Figure out what you really want. He reached for her hand. But know this, whatever you choose, I'll respect it. If you walk away, I'll understand. I'll make sure you're safe, set up, able to live whatever life you want. No obligations, no pressure. Just choice. Grace looked at their joined hands, thought about everything they had been through. The violence and fear and impossible odds. But also the moments of connection, of understanding. Of seeing each other at their absolute worst and choosing to stay anyway. I don't need time to think, she said quietly. Vincent's expression was carefully neutral, preparing for rejection. Because I already know my answer. Grace met his eyes. I'm coming with you. Wherever you're going, whatever you're building, I'm in. Grace, you should really stop telling me what I should do. I'm a grown woman making a grown-up choice. Her voice was firm. I love you too. Probably started falling the second you flipped that table to protect me. Definitely knew it when you bled out in my arms and still tried to make sure I'd be okay. She squeezed his hand. So yes, I'm coming with you. And we're going to build something good. Something your father would be proud of. Vincent pulled her closer. Careful of his still healing injuries, but still strong. You're sure? I've never been more sure of anything. He kissed her then. Gentle at first, then deeper, full of promise and hope, and all the things they had fought for. When they finally pulled apart, both were smiling. Where are we going? Grace asked. I was thinking Oregon. Portland, maybe. Close enough to your family, far enough from Seattle to start fresh. Vincent's voice was thoughtful. I've got connections there. People who owe my father favors, we could make it work. Portland. Grace tested the word. I could finish my degree at OSU. You could. What exactly will you do? Consulting, legal work, maybe. I never did use that law degree. Help businesses navigate complicated regulations. He smiled. Boring stuff, normal stuff. The kind of work that doesn't end in shootouts and betrayal. Sounds perfect. They spent the rest of Vincent's recovery planning. Small details that became bigger dreams. An apartment in the Pearl District. Grace's transfer applications to nursing programs. Vincent's meetings with FBI lawyers about his testimony schedule. Father Michael visited on Vincent's last day in the hospital, brought communion and blessings, and the quiet strength that had sustained them both through the worst. You're doing the right thing, Michael told Vincent. Your father would be proud. My father would probably say I should have done this years ago. Your father understood timing. He knew some lessons can only be learned the hard way. Michael looked at Grace. Take care of him. He's stubborn and proud and has a hero complex a mile wide. I noticed. Grace smiled. But I'm stubborn too. We'll balance out. That's what I'm counting on. 2 weeks later, Grace stood in an empty apartment in Portland's Pearl District, surrounded by boxes and possibility. Vincent was in the bedroom on a call with his lawyer about testimony schedules. The trial was set for 3 months from now. 3 months to prepare, to settle, to breathe. Grace's phone rang. Unknown number. She almost didn't answer. Old habits from running and hiding. But curiosity won. Hello, Grace Mitchell. A woman's voice. Official. Serious. This is Dean Morrison from Oregon Health and Science University School of Nursing. I'm calling about your transfer application. Grace's heart stopped. Yes, we'd like to offer you admission for the spring semester. Full credit transfer. You'd be able to complete your degree in 18 months if you maintain your current academic standing. Tears burned Grace's eyes. I accept. Absolutely. Yes. Excellent. I'll have admissions send you the paperwork. Dean Morrison paused. If you don't mind my asking, your essay was extraordinary. The way you discussed using medical training under extreme circumstances. That experience with trauma care. Was that real or hypothetical? Grace thought about stitching Vincent's wounds in a cemetery. About stopping bleeding with hands that wouldn't stop shaking. About staying calm while everything around her shattered. Real, she said quietly. Very real. Then we're lucky to have you. Students with real-world crisis experience are rare. You'll be an asset to our program. When Grace hung up, Vincent was standing in the doorway. Good news, I got in. OSU spring semester. She launched herself at him, careful of his still healing injuries. I'm going to finish my degree. Never doubted it. He held her close. You're going to be an incredible nurse, Grace Mitchell, says the man I've patched up 3 times. Exactly, expert testimony. He kissed the top of her head. I'm proud of you. I'm proud of us. Grace pulled back to look at him. We survived, Vincent, against every odd, against every person who said we wouldn't make it. We survived and we're building something real. We are. His voice was soft. Speaking of building, I have something for you. He pulled a small box from his pocket. Grace's breath caught. It's not what you think, Vincent said quickly. Not yet anyway, but I wanted you to have this. Inside was a key, simple brass, nothing fancy. Key to this apartment, Grace guessed. Key to everything, this place, the car, the safe deposit box where I've put everything valuable. Legal papers, money, contacts. Vincent's voice was serious. If anything happens to me, if the trial goes wrong, if someone comes after me, if I end up in prison despite the immunity deal, all of it is yours. No strings, no obligations, just yours. Vincent, nothing's going to happen to you. You don't know that, neither do I. He closed her fingers around the key. But I know I want you to be safe. Set up, able to live whatever life you choose. This key, it's freedom, it's choice, it's me making sure you never have to depend on anyone ever again. Grace looked at the key, at Vincent, at the life they were building from wreckage and hope. I choose you, she said firmly, not the money, not the safety net. You, flawed and complicated and still healing from wounds that go deeper than bullets. She pressed, when I need access to our life, I'll ask. Because it's our life now, not yours or mine, ours. You're sure? Stop asking me if I'm sure. I'm always sure. Grace smiled. Now come on. We have an apartment to unpack and a future to build. And you promised me the worst burgers in Seattle, which I'm collecting on, as soon as your doctor clears you for greasy food. Portland has terrible burgers too. Then we'll find the worst one and make it our tradition. They unpacked boxes, arranged furniture, built something that looked like home from pieces they had salvaged from chaos. And when the sun set over Portland, painting their new apartment in golden pink light, they stood together at the window, watching a city that didn't know their story, didn't care about their past, just offered them tomorrow. 3 months later, Vincent testified. Grace sat in the courtroom gallery every single day, watched him tell the truth about his organization, about the people who had betrayed him, about his father's murder and Elias's coup and everything that had led to that night at the Velvet Heart. Elias was convicted. Life sentence, no parole. Patricia got 15 years. 6 other members of the organization went down for various crimes. The Callahan Syndicate, the empire that had ruled Seattle's underworld for 40 years, was dismantled piece by piece. Vincent walked out of the courthouse a free man. Probation, community service, mandatory check-ins with his parole officer. But free. Grace was waiting on the courthouse steps. He saw her and smiled, real and unguarded and full of relief. It's over, he said. It's over, she agreed. They walked to the parking garage hand in hand. No security detail, no looking over shoulders. Just 2 people who had survived hell and come out stronger. 6 months after that, Grace graduated from OSU with her nursing degree. Vincent was in the audience, cheering louder than anyone else when they called her name. Danny and his daughters came up from California. They had moved after the kidnapping, wanted a fresh start. Grace's parents drove down from their new place in Eugene. At the graduation dinner, Danny raised his glass. To my sister, who's tougher than I ever gave her credit for, who survived things that would break most people, who chose her own path and walked it with her head held high. To Grace, everyone echoed. Grace looked around the table, at her family, at Vincent who had become family too, at the life she had built from the ashes of the one she had lost. To second chances, she said quietly, and to the people brave enough to take them. A year later, Grace was working in the trauma unit at Legacy Emmanuel. She was good at her job, stayed calm under pressure, made decisions fast, saved lives. Her supervisors praised her. Her patients trusted her. She came home one evening to find Vincent in their apartment. They had moved to a bigger place in the Alphabet District, cooking dinner. Actually cooking, not ordering takeout and pretending. This is domestic, she teased. I'm a changed man. Reformed crime lord turned responsible adult. He kissed her. How was work? Busy. 3 gunshot wounds, 2 cardiac arrests. 1 kid who swallowed a penny. Grace kicked off her shoes. Saved them all except the cardiac patient who was already gone when EMS brought him in. So 4 out of 5. I'll take it. You're incredible, you know that. I learned from the best. She moved to the kitchen, saw what he was making. Is that chicken marsala? Father Michael's recipe. We're about to test that theory. Vincent gestured to the table. Sit. You've been on your feet for 12 hours. Grace watched Vincent cook, marveled at how normal this was. How good normal felt after everything. I testified at a trial today, Vincent said casually. Last one. They finally got the guy who was funding Elias's operation, and he's going away for a long time, which means it's really over now. No more trials, no more testimony, no more looking backward. He plated the chicken. Just forward from here. Forward sounds good. They ate dinner, talked about their days, made plans for the weekend. Hiking in the gorge maybe. Or just sleeping in and being lazy. Normal couple things. After dinner, Vincent pulled out a small box. Different from the one with the key. This one was velvet. Grace's heart stopped. Before you panic, Vincent said, hear me out. I'm hearing. We've been through hell together. Literally. Gunfights and betrayals and almost dying more times than I can count. We've built a life from nothing. Built trust when every reason told us not to. Built love from the worst possible circumstances. He opened the box. Inside elegant perfect. I want to build a future too. With you. Legally, officially. In front of God and everyone we care about, Vincent. I'm not asking because I think we need a piece of paper to prove what we have. I'm asking because I want the world to know you're mine and I'm yours. Because I want to stand up in front of everyone and say, this woman saved my life in every way that matters, and I'm spending the rest of my life being worthy of that. His voice was steady. Grace Mitchell, will you marry me? Grace looked at the ring, at Vincent. At the life they had built against impossible odds. Yes, she said, yes, absolutely, yes. He slipped the ring on her finger, pulled her close. Kissed her like they had all the time in the world because they did. No gunfire, no danger. Just two people who had found each other in chaos and chosen to stay. When Vincent asked, I mean, we should probably plan this, right? Set a date. Small ceremony, just family and close friends. Father Michael officiating somewhere quiet. Grace smiled. And then that terrible diner you promised me 2 years ago. Reception with the worst burgers in Portland. You're serious, completely. We started this story in a 5-star restaurant that ended in blood and terror. Let's write the next chapter somewhere honest. Somewhere real. Somewhere that's actually us. You're perfect, you know that. I'm practical. There is a difference. They got married 3 months later. Small ceremony in Father Michael's church. Grace wore a simple white dress. Vincent wore a suit that didn't hide the scars from bullets and bad choices. Danny walked her down the aisle. Sarah and Emma were flower girls who threw petals with the concentrated seriousness of kids who had seen too much and now treasured joy. When Father Michael asked if anyone objected, there was a moment of silence. Then Vincent turned to the small crowd and said, seriously, if anyone has objections, now is the time. Because we've already survived worse than whatever you've got to throw at us. Everyone laughed. The ceremony continued. Grace and Vincent exchanged vows. They had written them themselves, honest words about survival and choice and building something good from something broken. I do, Grace said. I do, Vincent echoed. And just like that, the waitress and the crime lord became husband and wife. The reception was at a diner called Pete's Place. Truly terrible burgers, questionable fries, coffee that could strip paint. It was perfect. Grace sat across from Vincent in a booth, still wearing her wedding dress, eating the greasiest burger she had ever tasted. This is disgusting. Worst in Portland. I promised you that. Vincent grinned. Was it worth the wait? Every second of it. Around them, their family celebrated. Danny and his girls, Grace's parents, Doc and Jade, Father Michael, Agent Torres, who had become an unlikely friend. People who had been part of their story and would be part of their future. Vincent reached across the table, took Grace's hand. The one with the ring that said she had chosen this life. This man. This impossible future they had built together. Thank you, he said quietly. For what? For writing 3 words on a receipt. For being brave enough to save a stranger. For choosing to stay when every smart instinct said to run. His voice was thick with emotion. For giving me a reason to become better than I was. For showing me that good people still exist in this world. Grace squeezed his hand. Thank you for being worth saving. For protecting me when you didn't have to. For trusting me with the truth even when it was ugly. For building this life with me. Yeah, we did. Grace smiled. And we're going to keep building it for the next 50 years. Deal. Deal. 5 years later, Grace stood in the same trauma unit where she had worked her first day as a nurse. But now she was head of the department. Training new nurses, saving lives, making a difference one emergency at a time. Vincent ran a consulting firm that helped businesses transition to legitimate operations. Former criminals trying to go straight. Companies caught in legal gray areas. He used everything he had learned from running the syndicate to help people build honest empires instead of criminal ones. They lived in a house in Selwood with a yard and plans for kids someday. Normal life. Boring life. The life Vincent's father had died trying to achieve. Sometimes Grace thought about that night at the Velvet Heart. About the woman she had been. Scared, uncertain, just trying to survive each shift. That woman felt like a stranger now. Someone she had been in another lifetime. Do you ever regret it? Vincent asked one night as they sat on their porch watching the sunset. Everything you gave up, the safe, normal life you could have had. Grace thought about it honestly. About the nursing career she had built despite the trauma. About the family she had created with Vincent.